I don't know about y'all, but right now, when I'm scripting this, that is, who knows when this one's gonna come out, but all of my feeds are full of the marketing for the Wicked movie.
User UV003 should refrain from exposing how long.
And it's totally working on me. Granted, I walked out of a university with a theater BFA, so like, if it was gonna work on anyone, this bitch is target demographic for sure.
Please do not cut off this system. It is only trying.
Anyways, I brought this up because I remembered that like 2 years ago, I fully outlined an SVSSS Wicked AU. I never wrote it, but I did dig it out to see what it was about, and it's pretty good. Not gonna lie. Like, not enough for me to sit down and write the whole thing. That's so much work. But I will be thinking about it when I watch the movie. Each chapter is titled after the songs in the soundtrack in order, and I just had to share the outline for one of them. Chapter 8. I'm Not That Girl. Parentheses, multiple POVs. Shen Yuan, oblivious, thinks that Luo Binghe likes Liu Qingge, but that Liu Qingge likes Yue Qingyuan. Luo Binghe likes Shen Yuan, but thinks Shen Yuan likes Liu Qingge. Liu Qingge likes Shen Yuan, but thinks Shen Yuan likes Yue Qingyuan. And Yue Qingyuan likes Shen Yuan, but thinks that Shen Yuan likes Luo Binghe. That made me laugh a lot.
Okay, now can we get started?
On a totally unrelated note, I spent a lot of hours scrolling through the miraculous ladybug love square tags on Tumblr as a squishy-brained high schooler. Oh my god. Actions have consequences, y'all. On an actual, completely unrelated note, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. We agree that it's really fun just being real deep obsessed with stuff. Her vice is K-pop. Good shit. She was like, oh, I love looking at fan content and seeing people who are just as deep, if not deeper, in the obsession. Makes her feel better about it. I was like, same, honestly. But sometimes it's hard to find the shit that I'm looking for. And she looked me dead in the eyes like, my friend, I don't think it's possible to be more into Scum villain than you are. Y'all, when I say I hadn't mentioned SVSSS at all, I'm so cool and normal and casual. Anyway, let's pick up where we last left off. Here is Volume 3 of The Scum Villain's Self-Saving System by MXTX.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this system able to speak now?
As always, please be aware that this book is rated 17+, and there's a list of the content warnings in the description. Let's get started. Okay, at the end of Volume 2, we had a bit of a cliffhanger. Shen Qingqiu said he'd go with Binghe willingly if he left Sanshan Mountain alone. Liu Qingge disagreed, and the war god launched himself at Luo Binghe for another fight. And if you were looking forward to hearing about that fight in great detail, sorry. Volume 3 starts with Chapter 14, House Arrest. Liu Qingge lost that one off screen, and now we're in the Demon Realm. They walk in silence through Binghe's underground palace. They only stop when they reach a series of rooms that are a perfect replication of Shen Qingqiu's bamboo house on Qingjing. They talk a little in the rooms. Binghe points out that his blood parasites no longer respond to him. Shizun must have had a fortuitous encounter. Shen Qingqiu asks if he's going to make him drink more. Luo Binghe says no, because he doesn't want to give Shen Qingqiu another reason to dislike him. Luo Binghe tells him to stay here, and that he will station guards outside for his safety. He also says that Shen Qingqiu can request anything of him. Shen Qingqiu, feeling a little spiteful, only requests that he see Luo Binghe as little as possible, and he feels bad about it immediately afterwards. He thinks it's the meanest thing he's ever said to someone and meant it, if only in the moment. Once he's left alone, Shen Qingqiu gets the current stats from the system. He's successfully removed the tag
Laden with landmines,
but also earned the achievement
quite a lot of things to roast.
One step forward, one step back. Binghe has 1,500 anger points and 4,500 heartbreak points. He also has 3,840 B points. If you remember, B points are the system's currency. Shen Qingqiu looks for anything he can buy with them. There's an upgrade that he can get for 3,000. Okay, I feel a bit bad for Shen Qingqiu here. The system totally tricks him. It buys the upgrade and starts the download before telling Shen Qingqiu that the upgrade was for the small scenario pusher, Luxury Edition. All the scenario pushers had managed to do for him was to get his clothes ripped off his body. Who knows what a luxury edition would put him through? He feels restless. Shen Qingqiu looks out the window of the replica bamboo house and sees a bunch of demon servants running around. He pokes his head out and asks what they're doing. The servants are acting very deferential and not at all like prison guards. They're planting bamboo. It's their job to figure out how to cultivate the human plant in the demon realm. They did it, and now they're planting it. Shen Qingqiu spends 2 days just sitting around. He's not even hungry until the 3rd day when he sends for food. A little demon maid brings him a bowl, but Shen Qingqiu can't bring himself to take even a 3rd bite. The food is perfectly suitable for human tastes. No demon realm rotten flesh delicacies. It's delicious. Too delicious, actually, in a very familiar way. The maid won't tell him who made it. Shen Qingqiu is spiraling a little bit, and before he knows it, he has an empty bowl. The demon maid takes the bowl, and Shen Qingqiu gets another visitor. It's Shang Qinghua. Shen Qingqiu is happy to see his fellow transmigrator, and you can tell he's happy because he greets him with a blast of qi and starts beating him over the head with his hand. Don't think for a second that he didn't forget who sold him out to the protagonist. Shang Qinghua defends himself, saying that Binghe was about to figure it out himself anyways, so there wasn't much point in hiding it. Plus, he brought a gift to make up for it. Shen Qingqiu calms down when Shang Qinghua gives him shuya, reforged like it had never broken to begin with. They talk a little more, making jokes about the protagonist coming out of the closet. Okay, I have to take a second to talk about the love-hate relationship between our 2 lovely transmigrators. Beautifully referred to as cum plane by the fandom, Peerless Cucumber and Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky have one of my favorite relationships in the book. It's just so... what's the word? Stupid? They just piss each other off so much, but they also always come back. Really, their relationship hasn't changed much from author and hate reader. I do think that Cucumber Bro could stand to be a bit nicer to Airplane Bro, but Airplane is just so pathetic sometimes. It makes him so easy to bully. Cucumber Bro asks about Airplane's original plans for Tianlin June. Airplane had made notes in his original outline, but of course the readers just wanted more smut, so he scrapped it all in the end. Who would want to read it after all? Peerless Cucumber would. He really wanted to read it. Under all that hate and trolling, he really liked the world Airplane wrote. He wanted to see what would happen if Binghe met his father, met another heavenly demon. Shen Yuan insulted Airplane in every way he could think of in the forums, which made the fact that telling Binghe to go away is the meanest thing he's ever said to another person even funnier. Shen Qingqiu asks what else was in the original outlines that never made it into PIDW. A backstory and redemption arc for the Scum villain, apparently. But before he can get any real details out of Shang Qinghua, Luo Binghe is knocking at the door. Shang Qinghua gets out as soon as possible, and Shen Qingqiu and Luo Binghe get to have one of their most successful conversations yet. Until it's, not. Luo Binghe wants to know how Shen Qingqiu is doing, especially because he hasn't been sleeping. Shen Qingqiu tells him straight up that he'd be more inclined to sleep if it was dreamless. He confronts Binghe about lying to him in the dreamscapes, namely about how he knew Shen Qingqiu was there. Binghe admits, yes, he lied to him, twice, but Shen Qingqiu also lied twice to him. Once, when he said that demonic heritage wouldn't forsake him to the heavens. The second was when he died and Binghe spent 5 years preserving his body. Shen Qingqiu didn't tell him that he planned to come back. Binghe lied to him in the dream world, pretending that he didn't know it was his Shizun, because he thought that if he didn't, Shen Qingqiu would never talk to him. And Shen Qingqiu knows that one's true too. He had been avoiding Binghe at all costs. Binghe has a very eye-for-eye mentality here. You lied twice, I lied twice. Shen Qingqiu is like, you really cling to grudges, don't you? And Binghe is like, not grudges, only memories with you, Shizun. And then Binghe grapples them to the ground. Yeah, I couldn't tell you why, but this is where the conversation pretty much stops. They roll around on the floor a bit. Shen Qingqiu at one point punches Luo Binghe in the gut, a fun little reverse of that one time Luo Binghe punched Shen Qingqiu in Mengmo's trap, and the system awards him 500 points. Masochistic Binghe is back! Shen Qingqiu thinks he's never met a greater weirdo in his life, and he raised this weirdo. Luo Binghe also gets to rip some of Shen Qingqiu's robes as a treat. If Shizun is going to call him a beast, then he's going to act like a beast. They roll around some more, and then something happens. Shen Qingqiu feels weird. His heart feels like it's going to explode. There's flashes of white and shadows fading in and out of his vision, and he's screaming. Binghe starts freaking out too as Shen Qingqiu's soul is forcefully ripped from his body, and he has to hold his Shizun's dying body once again. Chapter 15 starts with Shen Qingqiu waking up. Who would have guessed it? Dude's died so many times. Shen Yuan died to become Shen Qingqiu, then Shen Qingqiu died to become Plant Shizun, Master Peerless Cucumber, and now Plant Shizun has died and gone back to Shen Qingqiu. That's right, somebody succeeded before the great protagonist. Shen Qingqiu wakes up in a coffin in the Holy Mausoleum. If you remember, that's where Binghe was trying to break into in order to do this very feat. Whoever stole his immortal body brought it here, in a jade coffin surrounded by precious artifacts, and zapped his soul right back. Shen Qingqiu remembers the Holy Mausoleum arc from PIDW pretty well. The place was a twisted maze, like every airplane location, and full of booby traps and security. Speaking of security, it doesn't take Shen Qingqiu long to run into the Holy Mausoleum's main defense, the blind corpses. They're called blind because if you stand in the dark silently, they'll stumble right past you, but their bodies are totally covered in eyes. If they detect any light at all, they jump at it at unimaginable speeds. This is just turned into a roguelike game for our dear Shizun. On top of that, the halls of the mausoleum are lined with last breath candles, named because they glow a faint green if any creature draws breath near them. Candles glow and the blind corpses have something to attack. The old 1-2 punch. Shen Qingqiu starts booking it with Qi. He's a little faster than the corpses, but he soon hits a dead end. With no other options, he climbs into one of the coffins to hide. He's like, "Sorry man, I hope you're okay with me sharing." The last thing he expects is the corpse to respond. "Yeah, no problem, there's plenty of room." Nope. Shen Qingqiu jumps out of there, ready to face the blind corpses instead, but an approaching figure drives the corpses off like he owns the place. And I guess he kinda does. It's Zhu Zhilang. That's right, he stole Master Shen's immortal body. And the one in the coffin? Of course, it's his uncle, the previous emperor of the demon realm, the last full-blooded heavenly demon, Luo Binghe's father, Tianlanjun. Shen Qingqiu wants to know why they've brought him here, and Zhu Zhilang hits him with the "a drop of kindness must be replaced by a flood" line again. Tell him something he doesn't already know. He switches tactics and asks Tianlanjun instead. The guy's just lounging in the coffin. Shen Qingqiu offers him a hand to help him out, but the arm breaks off in his hand. Tianlanjun's just like, "Whoopsies, it fell off again," and then pops it back on, his whole ass arm. Okay, I'll stop dancing around and just tell y'all. So, the great kindness Zhu Zhilang is always referencing is when he stopped Gong Yizhao, may he rest in peace, from stepping on him, yeah. But also that he dropped one of the Sun Moon Dew mushrooms for Zhu Zhilang. Our sneaky boy used it to grow a new body for Tianlanjun, who was still trapped under the mountain where the Great Sex left him. They grew the body and transferred his soul. It falls apart easily because it's made pretty much entirely out of spiritual energy, and Tianlanjun's mega powerful demon power is incompatible. No matter, it'll work for what he has planned. You see, Tianlanjun had a long time stuck under a mountain to become very resentful towards the Great Sex. Now that he can move again, he's going to raise them to the ground. So why is Shen Qingqiu here? Good question. They were going to destroy the 4 Great Sects, which includes Sangchang Mountain Sect, but Zhu Zhilang had a debt to the Qingjing Peak Lord and didn't want him to be caught up in it. So what is there to do? That's easy. Sever Shen Qingqiu's ties to the cultivation world. They planted the sours in Jinlan City to frame him, and the cultivators rejected him just as they planned. They would exile him. Shen Qingqiu asked about Chou Haitang, but Zhu Zhilang says he has no idea who she was or that she would be there. Their plan was just to get the cultivation world to think Shen Qingqiu had been allied with demons, and then Zhu Zhilang could squirrel him away to the demon realm, where he'd be safe from the destruction. But that didn't happen because Shen Qingqiu died before the trial. But then he came back! Sure, he managed to escape Zhu Zhilang with the Railgar wine, but now they're finally here, and Tianlanjun can start his revenge. Shen Qingqiu's just listening to all of this with his jaw on the floor when explosions in the distance shake the ground. It's Binghe. It couldn't be anyone else. The Holy Mausoleum only responds to the Emperor of the Demon Realm. That's Tianlonjun. Even if he was still under the mountain, his son hadn't managed to conquer enough of the realm yet. That's right. Tianlonjun acknowledges Luo Binghe as his son and sees the resemblance, although Binghe does look a lot more like his mother, Su Jian. But when Tianlonjun speaks, it doesn't seem like he has a lot of love for his son. The Holy Mausoleum won't let Binghe in, but that doesn't mean there aren't other methods of entry. He just needs enough power to break in. Just then, Binghe smashes through the wall, riding on top of a black moon rhinoceros python. One wouldn't have been enough, though. Luo Binghe tamed 200 black moon rhinoceros pythons to break the barrier around the Holy Mausoleum. Shen Qingqiu takes a moment to bask in that protagonist power, and another to feel super guilty for blaming the sours on Binghe. Luo Binghe is offering a hand to Shen Qingqiu. Come with me, Shizhen. But Zhuzhulong cuts in like, 200 pythons were enough to lower the barrier enough for you to get in, but it won't let you back out. And Binghe's like, then I'll offer you two as blood sacrifices, and they start fighting. There's an obvious gap in skill between father and son. Even Zhuzhulong has more combat experience than Luo Binghe. Binghe might have been able to pull through if it was just him and all the plot armor in the world, but against Tianlonjun, let's just say the odds are stacked. Tianlonjun swats him like a fly, and Binghe is sent through a wall. Sure, it knocked Tianlonjun's arm off again, but he just dusts it off and plops it back in. Shen Qingqiu's a little desperate. He tries to take Zhuzhulong hostage, but he's a bad choice for hostage. Zhuzhulong immediately throws himself at Shen Qingqiu's sword, and he doesn't want to kill him, so he withdraws. Tianlonjun's like, oh, Master Shen, you'll break my poor nephew's fragile heart like that. Okay, plan B. Shen Qingqiu throws his sword to dislodge a jewel from the walls. He actually remembers the room they're in from PIDW. The room has an anti-theft system. As soon as the jewel falls, the painting next to it starts laughing. It's super loud, and it really only affects demons. The laugh is designed to stun and incapacitate. Tianlonjun and Zhuzhulong are doubled over and clutching their ears, so Shen Qingqiu takes his chance, grabs Luo Binghe's hand, and runs. When they're in the next room, he looks back. He's only half demon, but the laughter would still have an effect on Binghe too. But oh shit, he didn't grab Binghe, but Zhuzhulong instead. He grabbed the wrong hand. Zhuzhulong's like, I'm sorry, I tricked you. I swapped our arms when you started to turn around. Shen Qingqiu's pissed, but before he can decide to turn back, or decide anything really, he sees where they're standing. The floor is carved into a stone face. Shen Qingqiu could remember that Binghe had safely crossed the floor by stepping in a very special sequence. Not that it mattered, because he had already been unknowingly standing on the face. Very quickly, the floor was heating up. He barely had enough time to scramble to the side before a pillar of magma erupts from where they're standing. Zhuzhulong tries to shield him. Bless him. Then, Tianlonjun and Luo Binghe burst in from the last room. Shen Qingqiu uses the distraction to start carefully stepping across the room. Binghe catches on to what he's doing, where he's stepping, and immediately follows. The trick here is to only step on the acupoints in the face. Binghe looks worse for wear. His arm is hanging limply and his head's bleeding a lot. They're taking as much of a head start as they can get out of there. At least they were in a section with just blind corpses and last breath candles again. He was about to ask when Luo Binghe spoke first. Are the meridians of that body working well? Shen Qingqiu had never expected this to be Luo Binghe's first question. He paused, then replied, They're working normally. It seemed that every time they fell into silence, Luo Binghe was the first to break it. Though, when he thought about it, Luo Binghe had spent 5 years fixing every one of this body's meridians, bit by bit. Luo Binghe nodded. That's good. I preserved the other body for a few days, but it's still withered in the end. That doesn't bode well if anything goes wrong with this one. Once the soul had left the body created by the dew mushrooms, it instantly died, then went on to wither and dissolve. For Luo Binghe to actually have sustained it for several days, who knew how much spiritual energy he had wasted on the endeavor? And he still dared to storm the Holy Mausoleum by himself right afterwards. Though Luo Binghe's stride was steady, he walked with a faint limp. But he kept his back straight, and he didn't use the wall to support himself. Shen Qingqiu felt mixed emotions at the sight of this. After awkwardly hesitating for a moment, he steeled his resolve and stepped forward to support Luo Binghe. Just then, the candles suddenly flickered, the tomb corridor dimmed, and Luo Binghe loomed over him. However, this time, Luo Binghe didn't pull him into a forceful embrace, nor did he get handsy. He just completely collapsed into Shen Qingqiu, and then he didn't move a mote. When no one else was around, Shen Qingqiu's preferred method of waking up other men was to give them 2 light slaps to the face. But before he could even extend his hands, he figured he couldn't bear to do it. So instead, he lightly patted Luo Binghe's cheek, subconsciously lowering his voice. Luo Binghe? But Binghe's eyelids were so heavy that his lashes didn't so much as tremble. In addition, his face was flushed an abnormal red. When Shen Qingqiu reached up to touch it, both his forehead and cheeks were scalding hot, as if he had a fever. Shen Qingqiu counted up the causes. In order to protect Shen Qingqiu's body and prevent it from withering, Luo Binghe had exhausted several days' worth of spiritual energy, but in the end, he'd still failed. Then, he'd gone around catching all those Black Moon rhinoceros pythons. After that, he'd come to the Holy Mausoleum. Tianlonjun had beaten him up, and he had been assaulted by the sound attack in the Hall of Delight. No matter how you look at it, this was much more serious than a fever. Shen Qingqiu stumbles around with Binghe's dead weight. He's doing his best. This body is still poisoned without a cure, and he was just getting used to his nuclear power plant body too. After kicking another corpse and accidentally bonking Binghe's head on the wall again, Shen Qingqiu decides it's time to hide. He finds a thankfully empty casket and climbs in, pulling Binghe in on top of him. Only because there's not enough time for Binghe to get set up in his own, of course. They wait. Binghe is heavy. The corpses stumble in. Shen Qingqiu stays silent. They should leave soon, only they don't. One clawed hand grabs the lid of their coffin, and Shen Qingqiu realizes his mistake. It's very faint, but the mark on Luo Binghe's forehead, the one that denotes his heavenly demon lineage, is emitting a soft red glow. Both of Shen Qingqiu's hands are occupied keeping Binghe's weight off his lungs, so he does the only thing he can think of and covers the protagonist's mark of sin with a soft press of his lips. The corpse can't see them with the mark covered, but its hand is still swinging over the coffin. Shen Qingqiu very carefully maneuvers Binghe so he sinks further into their hiding spot. Shen Qingqiu thinks he's waited long enough, and he goes to sit them up when someone appears. It's Meng Mo. Shen Qingqiu had immediately flipped their positions with his sword drawn, but if it's Meng Mo, then he must be dreaming. Meng Mo reveals how dire the situation really is. Binghe has used too much energy, his mind in utter chaos from the self-inflicted damage he's done over the years. Meng Mo can't even enter his dreamscape, let alone wake him. He's only seen dreamscapes like this in people on the brink of death. He's appearing now because if anyone can save him, it's Shen Qingqiu. The brat never stopped thinking about his shizen in all the years he's been with Meng Mo. Shinmo's power is the only thing that's going to get them out of the Holy Mausoleum at this point, and Binghe needs to be awake to use it. Shen Qingqiu vows to do whatever he can to get them out, even if it means using Jinmo himself. When he wakes up, he's still in the coffin with Binghe on top of him. I need everyone to lock the fuck in. Are you ready for this? Alexa, play that song from Space Jam. It's time for the Scum villain coffin scene. When he moved the protagonist, it kept them out of harm's way, yes, but it put Shen Qingqiu in a way less comfortable position. The protagonist is all hard muscle. Not to mention his gear, the hilt of his sword is pressing hard into his thigh. He reaches down to move it.
Congratulations. Protagonist satisfaction points plus 1,000.
Oh, that was his sword all right. His heavenly demon longsword. Luo Binghe's peerless cucumber. His airplane shooting towards the sky. The protagonist's sky pillar, blessed by the heavens themselves. His giant Oh my god, I really made myself read all that. That was embarrassing. I've got roommates, you know. The main leads are in a coffin and one of them has a heart-on is a surprisingly common trope in Danmei. It shows up in a good amount of them. This wasn't even the first coffin scene I'd personally read by MXTX. Like a month ago, I read another coffin scene in another book by a different author. That one also had the main leads dying and waiting for each other. I'll let you guess which one it was. Good shit, man. Anyway, let's move on. Shen Qingqiu's trying his hardest too. He's back to dragging Luo Binghe through the mausoleum. Meng Mo told him that he should try and make his way to the far east side, so that's where they're going. The journey is blessedly quiet. The further he goes, the more the floors and walls give way to slippery moss and vegetation. The owner of this particular tomb must have been gifted in herbology, cultivating poisonous plants and rare grasses. Vines hung from the ceiling. They look familiar. Just to be safe, Shen Jingqiu removes his outer robe to drape over his and Binghe's heads. He walks them forward carefully. Suddenly, there's a sword flash, and Shen Jingqiu, in panic, reached out to catch the sword flying at them with his bare hand, which, ouch. He has no idea how Binghe caught Shuya back in Jinlan City. That shit hurt. Blocking their path is Chou Haitang and the old palace master. Well, most of the old palace master. Chou Haitang is pushing him in a Zhanjia wheelchair because he seems to be missing both his arms and legs, a real human stick. The two of them start villain monologuing, and we get to see the whole story of events. When the old palace master first saw Luo Binghe at the Immortal Alliance conference, he knew he wanted the boy as a disciple, but he wasn't able to set up the disciple exchange before the invasion. And then, Binghe was announced as one of the dead. Who could have known Luo Binghe would show up at his doorstep 3 years later? He took him in, but Luo Binghe remained loyal to the one who tossed him away. So, the old palace master dug up whatever he could on Shen Jingqiu. That's when he found Chou Haitang. They staged the meeting at Jinlan City together. The sour accusation was just a nice bonus in ruining Shen Jingqiu's reputation. The old palace master thought he won when he got Shen Jingqiu locked in the water prison. Even more when Shen Jingqiu killed himself. He could finally take his rightful place as Binghe's master. Only Luo Binghe was still loyal to Shen Jingqiu. In fact, he seemed to be even more obsessed than ever. He was snooping around, looking into everything that happened leading up to the event in Huayue City, and he caught on to the old palace master's involvement. Instead of being grateful for all the old palace master had done for him, all the work he put in, the ungrateful brat stole his sect out from under him and ripped off his limbs for good measure. Chou Haitang has some stuff to say too. She never felt right about his so-called death in Huayue City. The Shenjiu she knew was sneaky and conniving. There was no way he would selflessly destruct on his own accord. She never let her guard down, and then, when she'd been captured by Sha Hualing, she recognized him through his disguise easily. She knew she had to find the old palace master, and when she did, his state was so severe. It seemed the same evil ran through both master and disciple. They asked him to step aside to allow them to kill Luo Binghe. Shen Jingqiu thinks about all the times he stepped in when he didn't have to. How every time he did, it made his life harder. How he felt the pain even though the protagonist would have been immune. He thinks about the Skinner mission, where he'd offered up Binghe and the universe's plot armor stepped in. He thought about the book he once read, where the protagonist was so great and powerful that nothing could touch him. He remembers something he once said. Even if this master is to die, no harm will come to you. Shen Jingqiu steps in front of Luo Binghe. He snaps the blade that's still cutting into his palm. He's careful to use as little spiritual energy as possible. We'll get back to that. The old palace master has no such reservations. Even with his limbs gone, he's still an immortal master who led one of the 4 great sects for decades. He gathers his chi into his voice and yells. The blast is enough to launch Shen Jingqiu off his feet, especially with no chi backing him up. Midair, he pulls his still unconscious, still precious disciple to his chest and cushions Binghe's fall as best he can. The old palace master keeps shouting, and little white tufts float off the plants around them. When he finally stops magic yelling at them, it's not by choice. Green sprouts appear dotted across the old palace master's face and in his throat where the chi had been concentrated. Shen Jingqiu recognized some of the plants hanging in the chamber. The cotton-like spores were attracted to spiritual energy. They leached onto whatever host they could find and rapidly sprouted with any use of chi. The plant was called Ties That Bind. The sprouts could hurt and could easily hold the host in place with the pain, hence the name. The old palace master was getting a real bad hands-on herbology lesson. Chou Haitang fainted from the sight of it. Threats immobilized for the moment, Shen Jingqiu takes a second to breathe. Well, as best he can, blocking the sword and then breaking it earlier, he did use some spiritual energy, and he used a little bit more to catch Binghe. Ties That Bind sprouts were dotting his right arm, always his right arm, and less were on his legs. But that was fine. Luo Binghe was safe at last. Or so he thought. This part's pretty brutal. The old palace master keeps yelling and attacking, and more sprouts are appearing. Shen Qingqiu starts to feel pretty bad for him. He yells so much, it seems to wake the fainted Qiu Haitong. She freaks out. Shen Qingqiu thinks it's because of how messed up the old palace master is getting, but then she turns to face him. Qiu Haitong starts rambling. She's saying stuff Shen Qingqiu doesn't understand. How it couldn't have been her brother. There's no way, it has to be a lie. And then it devolves into cries of, why? Why didn't you kill her too? Why? She runs off, and the old palace master is left to die the most gruesome death in the series. Boy oh boy, I wonder what happened. I wonder what Qiu Haitong saw that made her change her mind. It sounds like something maybe happened at Qiu Manor. Something that would drive literally anyone to do whatever it took to get out of there. I've got to stop there, otherwise I will 100% spoil the Shenzhou backstory, but just know it's coming. Shen Qingqiu is still dragging Luo Binghe east when he hears Tian Nanjun's voice teasing him. Luckily, the man himself hasn't caught up to them just yet. He's using a technique to project his voice, but it does mean that he's close. Shen Qingqiu tucks Luo Binghe away in a coffin, 10 out of 10 hiding spot, never fails, and he makes sure Jinmo is tucked away next to him. He also rips as many ties that bind Sprouts out as he can in one go, and oof, that one hurts as much as you think it would. Probably more. But there's no time to waste. Binghe's forehead is still burning with fever, and his demon mark is glowing brighter. Shen Qingqiu leaves to find Tian Nanjun. Well, he leaves for a certain chamber he knows is nearby, and waits for Tian Nanjun to find him. And he and Zhu Zhilang do not disappoint. Tian Nanjun asks where Binghe is, and Shen Qingqiu is just like, I don't know, we must have left. The demons don't believe him, obviously. Luo Binghe would never leave without his precious Shizun, but they can't pursue him further because Shen Qingqiu has them right where he wants them. They met in the tomb of the Mobe clan of the Northern Desert Ice Demons. The security system activates like Shen Qingqiu knew it would, and ice is creeping up Tian Lanjun and Zhu Zhilang's bodies, starting at the legs, locking them in place. It won't hold the heavenly demons forever, but it'll buy him a lot of time. Tian Lanjun's actually impressed with just how well Shen Qingqiu knows the mausoleum. It's supposed to be secret, to the highest ranks of demon royalty after all. They couldn't possibly know they're dealing with the divine powers of obsessive nerdiness. Shen Qingqiu tries to get out of there, but Zhu Zhilang's like, my deepest apologies, Master Shen, before activating his blood parasites. Oh, poor cucumber bro, just can't catch a break. One really can never get used to the feeling of heavenly demon blood wrecking shop inside their body. Even so, Shen Qingqiu does his best to get out of there and back to Binghe. Get ready for a roller coaster, folks. So, I guess there is a god, because Zhu Zhilang begins to lose his hold on his blood. Now seems like a good reminder that heavenly demon blood can only be repressed by more heavenly demon blood, and Shen Qingqiu has two people's blood in his immortal body. Suddenly lighter, Shen Qingqiu finds himself stumbling. Instead of hitting hard ground, he finds himself swooning into someone's arms. It's Binghe, of course. It couldn't be anyone else, really. Shen Qingqiu is immediately relieved, but Luo Binghe is, quote, burning with fury. He stomps over to his father and cousin, who at this point are completely frozen over. He tries to hit them, shatter them, but his strike only succeeds in cracking the ice a little. Shen Qingqiu tells him it's better for them to get away while they can. The ice is too strong. No attack will be strong enough to kill them while they're trapped inside. They're walking away now, but Binghe's still mad at Shen Qingqiu. You see, Binghe woke up alone. Sure, he thought he heard his Shizun, maybe felt a hand on his forehead, but there was no one there when he woke up. He yells at Shen Qingqiu. Shen Qingqiu has just been through a lot. Everything hurts. There are still demon plants growing through his skin, and he just spent the last who knows how long dragging 200 pounds of protagonist muscle, dead weight, through the holy mausoleum. Shen Qingqiu's not in a mood to argue. He keeps walking. Luo Binghe doesn't share the same sentiment. at first. He grabs Shenjincho by the arm, the ouchie one, oops, and spins him around to face his Shizun, who has tears streaming down his face. And this, you guys, this is where everything changes. Misunderstandings be damned. They talk to each other. They get exactly what the other one means. They even get just how badly they fucked up the communication before. Bingcho is real. Everyone rise up. They did it. We did it. Okay, fine. I'm getting ahead of myself again, but only a little bit, I swear. This is so significant to the Bingcho journey. Luo Binghe sees his Shizun crying, and all his anger is just gone. He grabs him by the other, not injured arm, and gently leads him aside. Shenjincho, meanwhile, is like, there's no way I could be crying. That's ridiculous. But he is crying, so Shenjincho starts rationalizing it to himself. He's only crying because of how much the sprouts hurt. There's no other reason. There's no frustration burning the back of his eyes. Luo Binghe is apologetic. Shizun, I was wrong. Please punish this foolish disciple. And now it's Shenjincho's turn to get a little mad. That's not the first time Luo Binghe has said that shit. But every time he says it, nothing changes, and he gets mad at Shenjincho again. And now here he is, all but begging Shenjincho to hit him, vent his aggression on him. Why can't Binghe get it? There's no point of Shenjincho protecting him like this if he's gonna turn around and punch him afterwards. This is the same talk they've been having since Binghe was 16. Now it's Binghe's turn to cry, and cry he does. Big, ugly tears, full sobbing, and oh my god, he might be bigger, stronger, but that teary face wasn't the mighty face of PIDW's unbeatable protagonist. That was the face of Shenjincho's sticky White Lotus disciple. Tears work wonders on Shenjincho. He can't stand it if his little Meow Meow is crying. And they work for Binghe too. He's not good about being tough and indomitable. He just wants comfort like he got on Qingjing Peak, like he hasn't gotten for the last 8 years. You see, all of Binghe's insecurities stem from abandonment. The Endless Abyss was never worse than thinking that his Shizun pushed him away. He thought he was starting to get it when he heard that Shenjincho had been mourning him, but Shenjincho was already dead. And now, seeing his master cry for him, when Shenjincho was dragging him around, he still had some level of awareness, even though he couldn't wake up. He knew that his Shizun was protecting him again, just like he did when he was young. Feeling Shenjincho's presence, not leaving him, made him so unbelievably happy. He doesn't know why he yelled. He could barely control himself. Being alone makes him crazy. Shenjincho wipes away his tears. He can't stay mad in the face of such sincerity. He feels bad for yelling too. All this time, the blind corpses have been creeping up on them. Can't they see that these two are having a moment? God, how rude. Shenjincho checks over his wayward student. He was pretty sick before. Luo Binghe assures him that he feels much better than he has in a very long time. The two of them make it to the furthest east point of the mausoleum, and leaving is as simple as Binghe slashing Jinmo, making a portal for them to step through. It's a bright, sunny day outside. Binghe's protagonist aura has completely recharged, his injuries have healed, and it's his turn to fret over Shenjincho. That face is too bright and beautiful, Shenjincho has to turn around. Suddenly, Luo Binghe just has to ask, Shizun, other than Shizun crying, I also had a strange feeling. Strange feeling? Did it hurt? And Binghe's like, no, it didn't hurt, all while slowly looking down and hell. He's talking about the coffin scene. The heavenly pillar. Oh, fuck. That moment doesn't really matter. I just couldn't not include it. R.I.P. Shenjincho's face, but this is hilarious. Alright, back to things that are not going great for Shenjincho. Tianlanjun and Zhuzhulong finally catch up to them outside. Binghe's like, how dare you? You fed my Shizun your blood. And Tianlanjun's like, yeah, literally, so did you. And with that, the three heavenly demons are off in the air, waging the fight of the century. Now that Luo Binghe has recovered, and Jinmo is well under control, he's holding on a lot better than he did before, but it's still a 1v2, and he's slowly losing ground. Shenjincho does his best to support Binghe from the ground, But he has no doubt that he's severely outmatched by everyone else there. A bone eagle flies at Luo Binghe from a blind spot. Shen Qingqiu sends Zhuya at it. The bone eagle explodes and oh fuck. Tianlanjun had planned that. He had made the bone eagle by solidifying his own blood. When Zhuya hit it, the explosion rained the blood down to the ground and right onto Shen Qingqiu. He tried his best to shield himself, but it was too late. He could taste the metallic drops hitting his face. God damn it. How is it possible that there are only 3 heavenly demons left in existence and Shen Qingqiu, the sucker that he is, managed to swallow all 3 of their blood parasites? The battle stops immediately. Shen Qingqiu has the misfortune of once again being the hostage. Tianlanjun's blood wrecks his insides. If both Binghe and Zhuzhulong were working together,
They are not.
only then they might have a chance at suppressing Tianlanjun's pure blood mites. A little foreshadowing is a treat. Luo Binghe has to use a considerable amount of concentration to keep Shen Qingqiu's organs together under Tianlanjun's assault. If they start fighting again, there's no way he'd be able to last long on both fronts. Shen Qingqiu's pretty offended at being used like this. He shouts at them that if Binghe surrenders himself to his father, he'll crush his own skull. You see, Shen Qingqiu has a theory why Tianlanjun has been messing with them like this. It can't possibly just be because of Zhuzhulong's stupid self-appointed debt. Tianlanjun managed to escape from Bailu Mountain with the Sun Moon Dew mushrooms, but the body it made was incompatible with him. His arms kept falling off for fuck's sake. But Luo Binghe's body would be able to withstand his power. He was his son after all. There must be an artifact in the Holy Mausoleum that could swap souls out like that. Well, Shen Qingqiu isn't having it. Everyone's attention is on him now, and Tianlanjun shoots down his theory immediately. He's not as handsome as I am. Why would I want his body? Shen Qingqiu has some words about that. Not out loud, of course. Okay, as per contract, I will read Shen Qingqiu's no homo monologue. Shen Qingqiu had no words. Who said you were more handsome than him? Who gave you the license? Great Master, airplane shooting towards the sky, personally confirmed that Luo Binghe is unparalleled throughout the ages, across the 3 realms and the heavens and earth. Envied by men and admired by women, beloved by the young and old alike, that he's this novel's #1 hotcake who could shock all of existence and make gods and ghosts alike sob over his beauty, okay? And scene. Good job, man. Tianlanjun wants Shinmao. Shen Qingqiu's like, ha, fat chance, but before he can shout anything like, in your wildest dreams, or you must be stupid if you think he'll just hand over his ultimate golden finger, Binghe's already tossing him the sword. What? Binghe? That is not good negotiation. Tianlanjun was lying. Of course he was. And now that he has what he wants, he's getting out. He reactivates his blood, and Shen Qingqiu is thankfully unconscious by the time Zhuzhulong's giant snake form can swallow him whole. Alright, chapter 17. I feel like the chapters in this one have been pretty short, but here's where they start to get beefy. Something I absolutely love about Scum Villain is that there's not really a clear villain. Like, you could argue that Luo Binghe is kind of the villain for some of Volume 2, but we love him as much as Shen Qingqiu denies he does, by now. There's an argument for the old palace master pulling a lot of the strings, but we're ramping up to the finale here, and his arms and legs have already been cut off. That guy's dead. Granted, there's still some old palace master secrets that have yet to be revealed, but he still doesn't feel like enough to be the big bad. Tianlanjun seems like a BBEG for sure, especially in the last couple of chapters. He's intimidating and untouchable, but in this chapter, MXTX puts a lot of work into making him very funny and relatable as we get to know him. You could say that the Scum Villain will forever and always be the Scum Villain, meaning it's Shen Jiu, the original Shen Qingqiu, but yeah, that dude's not even here. And we still have yet to hear his whole story. I know I keep teasing it, but golly gee, he really is my favorite. And I have no idea how anyone could think he's the villain of this story afterwards. PIDW be damned. But let's dive into this one, shall we? Shen Qingqiu wakes up in an unfamiliar room for the gazillionth time. Womp womp, he's used to it. At least he's not covered in whatever's inside a snake. He won't soon forget about being swallowed whole. Zhuzhulong comes in and says he's here to treat his wounds. Ties that bind vines have pretty much taken over his arm to the point where he can't even wiggle his fingers. Zhuzhulong tells him that he needs to treat the infection 8 times a day. Otherwise, the roots could take hold and he could lose his arm. Plus, he's only treated them 3 times today. Shen Qingqiu kinda wants to just cut the arm off and be done with it, but lets Zhuzhulong do what he wants. Zhuzhulong gets a little nervy seeing Shen Qingqiu bare-chested. Turns out Tianlanjun's just outside. He comes in and Shen Qingqiu notices Xinmo just lying somewhere after being tossed on the ground. Tianlanjun has some questions, namely on the state of the relationship between Immortal Master Shen and his son. Tianlanjun has always been a huge fan of human culture. Even under the mountain, that love persisted even if the love for humankind, namely cultivators, had faded. He used to travel a human realm in disguise to watch plays and listen to music and buy trashy romance novels. So of course, he's been keeping up with the latest hit sweeping the nation, that being The Regret of Chunshan. The motherfucking Regret of Chunshan. And there's a sequel in the works. What kind of fan would he be if he didn't take the opportunity to ask when the star of the series was right in front of him? I don't care what the haters say. Tianlanjun is some of the best Fudanshi rep we've gotten in a while. Live your truth, king. Okay, back to the more serious stuff. Tianlanjun's plan, and why he needed Xinmo. He wants to merge the realms. In PIDW, Demon Emperor Luo Binghe uses the sword to the same end. When Tianlanjun was with Su Xian, he thought their love was perfect. Which, side note, when Tianlanjun is asked what he liked most about Binghe's birth mother, he says that she was cold and heartless. So maybe that says something about demon values in partners. Or maybe masochism is just a hereditary trait. He thought that if everyone could experience that, the 2 realms could live in harmony with each other. And what better way than to remove the barrier between them completely? Shen Qingqiu can think of a few. He had a lot of time to think about the consequences of such an action. Hell, he read about what happens in PIDW. He thought the action was pretty out of character for Binghe to do it in the first place. Dumb fuck author. But there were so many things that were just so destructive about the merge. There are countless plants and beasts that can only live in either the human or the demon realm. What were they supposed to do when haphazardly chucked into the other? Die, obviously. And then there were the issues of the cities just being smushed together. If they had the misfortune of being at the same place during the merge, what are you supposed to do when you wake up with your house fused with somebody else's? Once again, die, I guess. Not to mention, just forcing 2 opposing groups together was not the way to make them get along. You were pretty much guaranteeing mutual destruction. Shen Qingqiu tells him to, but Tianlanjun doesn't care. Oh, you are from one of the 4 major sects. Of course you'd think that way. I will merge the realms first and deal with everything else after. Night eventually falls on the camp. Shen Qingqiu tries to get some rest. He wakes up to Luo Binghe kneeling at his bedside. As soon as Binghe sees that he's awake, he jumps on him, kissing, or rather, quote, gnawing at Shen Qingqiu like a small biting animal. Yeah, so, Binghe still sucks at kissing. Shen Qingqiu inuyashas his ass with a word and Binghe is kneeling again, metaphorical puppy tail wagging as fast as his little M-heart desires. When Shen Qingqiu saw Binghe, he just assumed they were in the dream realm. Binghe gave away his fast travel sword after all. But no, he's here in the waking world. This becomes very obvious when Zhuzhulong announces himself. He's here to apply treatment to ties that bind. Shen Qingqiu panics. Luo Binghe needs to hide. But there's not much in here, so he lifts the covers on his bed and ushers Binghe under right as Zhuzhulong enters the tent. Binghe's bad at kissing, but he's even worse at hiding, especially when someone who's been wife-beamed by a Shizun is nearby. Especially when that guy starts removing Shizun's robes to get to ties that bind. He's just administering treatment, Binghe. Stop moving. Yeah, tough luck on that one, Shen Qingqiu. Binghe's jumping out of bed to knee Zhuzhulong faster than he can even see. At least the surprise attack caught him off guard. Luo Binghe has him by the throat before he can go out and tell the entire camp about their intruder. Shen Qingqiu's night keeps getting worse when Tianlanjun shows up. He leaves even less time in between announcing himself and entering the tent. So, when Tianlanjun walked in, he saw precisely this scene. Zhuzhulong and Shen Qingqiu were pulling and tugging at each other as they tumbled upon the bed, a towering mess of blankets pulled behind them. When Tianlanjun entered, both of them whipped their heads around, and in those 4 eyes, on those 2 faces, were identical expressions, complexions splotched white and red. Shen Qingqiu's robe still hung off his elbow, halfway removed. Even with how much of a weirdo Tianlanjun was, his smiling expression still froze on his face at the scene. Only after a while did he say in a light voice, "How unexpected." Zhuzhulong blushed. "My lord, the situation is a bit complicated. Either way, it's not what you think." His body blocked the blanket covering Luo Binghe, and Shen Qingqiu was half sprawled on top of him. Hiding the hand Luo Binghe had clenched on the small of Zhuzhulong's back, a vital acupoint. With their sprawled positions combined with the fluttering curtains, it would definitely be difficult to discover there was an extra person for some time yet. Tianlanjun nodded. He actually seemed a bit happy as he said, "There's no need to explain, I understand. I understand everything." Given his tastes and assumptions as a lover of regretted Chunshan, if he said he understood, then there was most definitely a need to explain. "Is there any reason for your distinguished self to visit at such late hours?" Shen Qingqiu asked. "If there is, please explain. If not, let's all rest. Thank you. I won't be seeing you out." "Actually, it wasn't anything major," said Tianlanjun. "There was just a minor abnormality. And I didn't know where Zhuzhulong had run off to, so I checked here first. But it seems that it was not the time. No matter, please continue, I don't mind." "My lord," said Zhuzhulong. Shen Qingqiu was visibly holding on to Zhuzhulong with both arms, and Luo Binghe was secretly pinching Zhuzhulong's acupoint. As Tianlanjun took step after step, getting closer and closer, the force behind this master-disciple pair's actions grew and grew. Zhuzhulong truly was very much without fault, and very much unfortunate. Just as Tianlanjun made to lift the bed curtains, the shrill and sonorous cry of a wild beast sounded from outside the tent. He whipped around to look. Outside the white tent, firelight surged into the sky, while soaring black shadows were cast from all directions. The roars of beasts mixed with hysterical screams. "Invaders!" Is Shen Qingqiu's luck finally turning around? It doesn't seem like it could get any worse. Famous last words, I know, my bad. God, I love that scene so much. In the English edition, there's an illustration for that part, and it's so good. Anyway, let's check in on who's invading the camp. Is anyone surprised? It's Le Qingge. Shen Qingqiu's harem keeps getting bigger. Tianlanjun goes out to face the guy giving his troops trouble. Shen Qingqiu, Luo Binghe, and Zhuzhulong follow him out. It's all chaos. Tianlanjun sees the 3 of them coming out of the tent and is like, "All 3, huh? How enlightening." I really don't know why Shen Qingqiu went out there. All these demons and Luo Qingge now think he was having a threesome, and he's in the perfect position to be held hostage at Tianlanjun's blood parasites again. Luo Binghe's diving into the fight too, as Shen Qingqiu shouts at them not to worry about him. As much as Shen Qingqiu would love to stick around and watch his shitty and disciple actually work together for once, he's not helping anyone but Tianlanjun by staying out there. Instead, he stumbles back into the tent, dragging Zhuzhulong with him. Okay, I need to make it super clear. I really, really love Zhuzhulong. Shen Qingqiu's little pudding nickname for him is so cute, and it perfectly captures him and his character. He's just so earnest, and he's always doing his best. He's kind of a doormat character, and I feel bad for him, but like, oh, I get it. Zhuzhulong's just the kind of guy you want to squish and bully a little bit. He could definitely kill me though, and he has definitely killed before, and this is a really bad transition, but this is the scene where he confirms that he did, in fact, kill Gong Yizhao. A moment of silence. Like, I know it's pretty implied that Zhuzhulong was the one to break into Huanhua, but hearing him say it outright just hits different. And it especially stings that it really was nothing personal. Zhuzhulong says he just killed him on the way out. Oof. So they talk a little more, and Shen Qingqiu makes it super clear that he's not going to keep letting himself be used as leverage like this, and Zhuzhulong really gets it. It's always been his protocol that he would throw himself at the sword before anyone could use him to get at his uncle. Shen Qingqiu has first-hand experience of this from the mausoleum. And even though Zhuge really just wants to repay Shen Qingqiu what he's doing, trying to treat him well, Shen Qingqiu just doesn't see it that way. Zhuge is keeping him from the people he cares about. He would rather die a terrible death with them than be safe knowing they're dead. Zhuge makes a decision then. The pain in Shen Qingqiu's body pretty much disappears as Zhuge parasites join Luo Binghe's in suppressing Tianlanjun's. And Shen Qingqiu doesn't waste a single pain-free second. He calls for Liu Shidi to fly away and reaches out for Luo Binghe. They do a cool flippy thing, and Luo Binghe speeds from the battlefield with him on Shuya. Tianlanjun looks at Zhuge letting them go just like that. Zhuge didn't say a word, going down on one knee. Tianlanjun possessed admirable composure, and his anger only persisted for a moment before it passed. You went to all that trouble, yet he didn't appreciate it a bit, only wholeheartedly rushed down the road to ruin. Zhuge your lord is sympathetic. Motioning for Zhuge to get up, he casually remarked, "But there's no need to be upset. One day, Peak Lord Shen will understand that you are doing what's best for him. A day not far from this one." Looking again at the night horizon, Tianlanjun said, "But I really never imagined to think Peak Lord Shen likes it with more people. Does there need to be at least 3 every time?" Silence reigned. Zhuge heart, originally turbulent, instantly became a wind-ravaged wasteland, absent a single blade of grass. His lord had probably been reading those strange illustrated pamphlets from the human realm again. Our trio speeds towards the borderlands. Luo Binghe is having the time of his life, hugging his Shizun from behind. Being flown on Shizun's sword, everything would be perfect if stupid Liu Shishu wasn't here. Liu Qingge shares the same sentiment. Looks like their little truce is off now that they're out of battle. Liu Qingge's been doing his own little adventure side quest. When Shen Qingqiu left with Luo Binghe after the siege on Sangchong Mountain Set, he realized, once again, he wasn't strong enough. He went into seclusion to advance his cultivation. As soon as he felt his power increase, he immediately flew to Luo Binghe's underground palace. Liu Qingge tore the place apart, but couldn't find either of them. He fought that red demon, Sha whatever, but couldn't get any information out of her. Then he ran into Shang Qinghua, just lazing around. That guy was just as pathetic as he remembered. He barely had to frown at him before he basically spilled everything. But all his crying alerted Mo Beijun. He fought him too, delaying him even more, and basically leveling Luo Binghe's palace. Liu Qingge is serious. These demons are all bad news, and Shen Qingqiu needs to get away from that guy. He does not trust him. Shen Qingqiu shuts him down immediately. Well, I do trust him, and I will not be going anywhere without Luo Binghe. Liu Qingge, as a last effort, sends a half-hearted blast of qi to knock Luo Binghe off of Shuya. It doesn't work. Fine, the stupid demon brat can stay. Jeez, what a pain all of this has been, but it's all good now. Shen Qingqiu's got his boys back. Well, it's at least better than before. But something seems wrong with Binghe. He says he's just a bit dizzy, but Shen Qingqiu's not buying it. But now's not the time. Shen Qingqiu has a pretty good idea of where Tianlanjun is headed. In the human realm, the Luo River, Binghe's namesake, was a large and recognizable landmark throughout. The Maigu Ridge was the same. The Maigu Ridge exactly paralleled the Luo River, but in the demon realm. This was the easiest place for Shinmo to slice through the barriers between the human and demon realms, and subsequently, the best place to merge the two. It's exactly where Luo Binghe did it in PIDW. Shen Qingqiu was sure. They need to inform the sect leaders. Liu Qingge isn't as convinced. The sect leaders will probably need more evidence, but either way, they need to get back as soon as possible. Bringing Shen Qingqiu back was Liu Qingge's entire mission, but something's wrong with Binghe. He's basically falling asleep behind him. Shen Qingqiu asks him for one night, just so Binghe can get some of his strength back. Fine. They pass straight through the borderlands and land at a small city outside the Central Plains. They get to the inn, and this is just absolute crack. Luo Binghe and Liu Qingge are measuring dicks in front of the innkeeper. Luo Binghe wants 2 rooms, but Liu Qingge insists on 3. But Binghe has an ace up his sleeve. His Shizun has pretty much nothing but his sword on him. Liu Qingge was infamous for avoiding inns on missions. If he ever had to rest, he'd camp in the woods. Luo Binghe was the only one with any money on him. And Shizun, he just doesn't have enough, so they can only afford to get 2 rooms. Shen Qingqiu's like, there you have it. And they get 2 rooms. He sees Binghe's shit-eating grin and is like, respect your shishu or I'll sell you for money. And then Shenqingqiu sees the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever and takes it. He goes to one of the rooms and wishes his 2 companions a good night. Oh, you wanted him to share? Well, that hardly seems appropriate now, does it? Liu Qingge would never let his Shishon rest with that beast around, and Luo Binghe could never let his Shizun alone with Liu Shishu. Who knows what his intentions were? And with that, Shenqingqiu shuts the door and leaves Luo Binghe and Liu Qingge to deal with their own shit. 10 out of 10. Perfect solution in his books. And now he has time to look at the notifications the system has been spamming him. He's been earning a lot of points lately, so many that he has enough to use the key item, the fake jade pendant, and what the fuck? The system has been offering this pendant at every turn. What do you mean he didn't even have enough points to use it until now? What a scam.
Maybe host should have asked the system before jumping to conclusions, huh?
The system brushes past that, too fast, in Shenqingqiu's opinion, and tells him that some major quest waits for him at Zhaohua Monastery. He'd better be ready. Liu Qingge comes to his rooms in the middle of the night. He actually knocks, which is crazy. Half the time he showed up to cleanse his meridians, Liu Qingge kicked, like actually kicked in the door to Shenqingqiu's bamboo house. Now he was knocking. When he came in, he handed Shenqingqiu a fan. Actually, one of Shenqingqiu's fans. I guess Liu Qingge had just been holding on to it. Back then, Shenqingqiu had a tendency to forget his fans at Peak Lord meetings, and Liu Qingge would always bring them back to him. Maybe he'd just been holding on to it. It doesn't matter that the last time Shenqingqiu had one of his fans would have been when he self-destructed. For his shitty to have it all this time, well, that's just normal bro stuff. Liu Qingge isn't just here to give him a fan. He just wants to understand. Luo Binghe defected from Sangchang Mountain Sect. He levied charges against Shenqingqiu to bring to trial. He caused him to self-destruct and kept his body from burial. Liu Qingge just doesn't get why Shenqingqiu is still so attached to the guy. Shenqingqiu tells him that he also doesn't fully understand, but that he wants to, and that's why he's been going this far. He wants to understand Binghe. He's so over all the misunderstandings. Liu Qingge leaves him for the night. The next morning, Luo Binghe wakes Shenqingqiu with breakfast, just like old times. What shocked Shenqingqiu the most is that he's wearing white robes. It's like he never fell into the abyss and stayed Shenqingqiu's disciple. Or really, he does look a bit like a young wife going about her duties. Now it's Luo Binghe's turn for a little alone time with Shenqingqiu. He starts making his bed while Shenqingqiu just stares at him. Binghe's like, if this one must still call Liu Qingge Shishu, does that mean that Shizun still recognizes this one as part of Qingjing Peak? And Shenqingqiu's like, yeah. I never released you from Qingjing Peak. Yeah, dude. They're both over the endless abyss thing, right? Right? It's a good thing Shenqingqiu has a fan to hide behind again. Binghe continues doing chores before going, oh, I almost forgot. If Shizun wants to see his sect siblings as soon as possible, we shouldn't go to Sangcheng, but Zhaohua Monastery instead. Oh shit, already? The system said something big is going down there.
Quest officially issued by
Luo Binghe.
Please select to accept.
And speak of the devil. Then Liu Qingge is back and kicking down the door. Never change, shitty. The letter arrived in the middle of the night. Zhaohua Monastery has invited the major sects to discuss something. Yue Qingyuan and the others are already on their way there. It doesn't take them long to get there. They have to fly by Jinlan City, and the place looks bustling. It looks like they've pretty much recovered from the sours all those years ago. Good for them. When they arrive, Liu Qingge tells Shenqingqiu to come and greet Yue Qingyuan with him. Shenqingqiu agrees and tells Luo Binghe to lay low for a bit. Binghe tells him that he doesn't care what other people think, and he just wants to stick with Shizun. Shenqingqiu sighs, but lets him. Liu Qingge goes ahead, and Shenqingqiu fusses over making his disciple presentable. They go to the Grand Hall. There's Yue Qingyuan and the Sangchang group. Liu Qingge whispers something to him, and he starts frantically looking around the room. Master Wu Chen is there. He can even stand again with his wooden prosthetics. Huanhua is notably not represented in the crowd. They had really fallen over the years. Master Wu Wang, the leader of Zhaohua Monastery, stands and starts the meeting. This old monk will ask outright, all who are present, how many of you had the same dream last night? Dream? Oh, that had to be Luo Binghe, right? Luo Binghe whispers in his ear. Shizun was fretting about not having enough evidence. Now you won't have to worry. The book actually describes Luo Binghe's expression here as brimming with compliments, please, and head pats, please. Adorable. Everyone there above core formation stage of cultivation had the same dream. The heavenly demon Tianlanjun escaped imprisonment with a newly crafted body and was planning on merging the realms, spelling destruction for all as they knew it. Wu Wang says he must want revenge for all that happened before and explains to those who weren't present. Get ready for a big ol' info dump, y'all. So, many years ago, the old palace master's most favored head disciple, Su Jian, met a strange man. He was a traveler and seemed to love the arts and literature, but there was something really off about him. He definitely wasn't human, like he presented himself, but only a very powerful demon would be able to hold a disguise as good as his. The old palace master ordered his disciple to endear herself to him, to find out his secrets. Over the years that she hung around the man, Su Jian met him more and more. And more than that, she started losing the disciples the old palace master sent to watch her back. One day, the old palace master reported that his disciple had discovered something truly terrible. The man was actually the heavenly demon emperor Tianlanjun, and he told Su Jian of his plans of destruction for the human realm. The old palace master spread the news quickly. He gathered the 4 sects, and they worked together to seal him under the mountain. It took the full power of the Xuansu sword in order to do it. But what happened to Su Jian? No one saw her during the siege. Wu Wang reveals that Su Jian had, in fact, fallen pregnant around that time with Tianlanjun. He had seduced and tricked her. A heavenly demon baby would strain a human being, even a cultivator, too much to use the usual methods. So, Wu Wang revealed that he helped the old palace master obtain a poison that would, hopefully, abort the baby but spare the mother. The old palace master told him that she had taken it before running from her sect in disgrace. Now, Shen Qingqiu was following the story for a while. He talked to Tianlanjun, and that dude really was a freak with weird tastes. But he really did seem like he loved Su Jian once, and everything he knew about Su Jian, she wouldn't be tricked so easily. And what was up with the old palace master's claim that he wanted destruction? Sure, he was trying to end the world now, but he said it was to foster peace between the realms, and he really seemed to believe that it would. Wu Wang keeps going. Su Jian ended up having the baby, and that baby was Luo Binghe. There was a lot of shocked gasps at that. Yue Qingyuan points out that it makes sense. He'd noticed Luo Binghe's resemblance to Su Jian, but thought it was coincidence. But since he's half heavenly demon, everything fits together. Here seems like a good time to mention the system's mission. Shen Qingqiu has to help Binghe raise his righteous image points by at least 200. The discussion keeps going. Luckily, the old palace master's reputation had fallen so far, it could barely be called shit. If Su Jian supposedly realized how evil Tianlanjun was, why did she run from her sect? Why did she have the baby? With her conveniently absent, the only proof the other sects had was the old palace master's word. Had they all been tricked by a dirty old man? No, even if that were true, there was no way the righteous sects could ignore such a claim about a heavenly demon. If they were to wait until they had proof, it would have been too late. Strangely enough, something similar to this event happened in PIDW. Not the discussion itself, the conference was about something completely different, but there was a gathering of the sects at Jiahua Monastery. At the same time, Sha Hualing's father, Jiao Changjun, was feeling really salty. Because of his daughter allying with some crazy upstart, he had lost his entire territory. He needed something to do to reassert himself. Like daughter, like father, he decides the best thing to do is to invade one of the major sects. He picks Xiaohua to stick it to those bald monkeys, his words, and sends a bunch of underlings undercover to cause mischief. They ran amok until Luo Binghe came along to ruthlessly subjugate them. He helped Xiaohua a lot and raised his reputation. Even convinced a lot of cultivators to marry him later. This happened before he decided to burn Sangchang to the ground, of course. Looking around, Shen Qingqiu could see some demons in disguise in the crowd. Perfect. They could do it like in the book. People are still arguing about the ethics of Tianlanjun's capture until Yue Qingyuan stands. Our sect leader draws attention to Shen Qingqiu and Luo Binghe beside him. People freak out, clutching their pearls. It has to be said that Yue Qingyuan seems a little short with Shen Qingqiu. I guess it makes sense. Shen Qingqiu has been causing Sangchong Mountain Sect a fair few amount of problems as of late. Not to mention, Shen Qingqiu keeps dying and ripping Yue Qingyuan's heart out when he does. Sadly, they don't have time to talk it out properly. Master Wu Wang is still steering the conversation. People assume that because Tianlan Jun is Luo Binghe's father, that they must be working together to the same ends. Binghe keeps insisting that he is not his father, and his only parent was the washerwoman. Nobody around them seems to believe him though, except Shen Qingqiu. In PIDW, Binghe's past was never fully exposed like this. Shen Qingqiu didn't have any frame of reference for how Binghe would react to learning about his birth parents. In his own words, it doesn't seem like an issue that could be solved with just some head pats. Binghe's getting defensive. Master Wu Wang and the other cultivators keep throwing barbs that directly target Binghe's insecurities and abandonment issues. Shen Qingqiu's trying his best to reassure him in the chaos, squeezing his hand. But it's getting really loud in here. Also, Wu Wang's kind of a dick. Not very monk-like. And then, a bunch of Xiaohua disciples step forward, having caught a bunch of the disguised demons in the crowd.
Points deducted.
Well shit, this isn't going well at all. They think Jiao Changjun's underlings are Luo Binghe's, and they think that Shen Qingqiu is following Su Xian's demon whoring example, their words. And Binghe's not helping either. He's not defending himself at all. He's not suppressing the demons either. No, he's just mad that Wu Wang insulted his master. Fucking hell. Wu Wang asks Yue Qingyuan if he still recognizes Luo Binghe as part of Sangchong Mountain Sect. He doesn't answer. Shen Qingqiu thinks that if he can convince the sect leader, then Yue Qingyuan can convince the rest. He only takes a single step before Luo Binghe stops him. Please don't go. No one else hears the tremor in his voice, the desperation. They just see him grabbing Shen Qingqiu. In an instant, there are dozens of sword glares shooting at Binghe. And, by proximity, Shen Qingqiu. Luo Binghe doesn't hold back and deflects them, and many cultivators have fallen to the ground. He's a demon. Fine, attack him then. What has his Shizun ever done? In truth, Shen Qingqiu had suffered no injuries. The tremors had been violent enough to make him stumble, but Luo Binghe had immediately grabbed him, pulling him into the crook of his arm and thereby protecting him. You call him Shizun and he doesn't renounce you. Is this not reason enough? That bald donkey. Shen Qingqiu twirled the fan in his hand, knocking away various swords and blades as they came at him from all kinds of bizarre angles, sending them flying. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. What does this Shen's renunciation or lack thereof have to do with you? The endless sounds of weapons clattering to the floor filled his ears. Shen Qingqiu turned and suddenly saw Yue Qingyuan coming at him straight on, imposing and formidable, with a hand on Xuansu's hilt. Shen Qingqiu's arm immediately went weak, to the point that he almost sent his fan flying right from his hand. Fight Yue Qingyuan? Like hell. But unexpectedly, though Yue Qingyuan raised Xuansu, he didn't direct it at Shen Qingqiu, but rather glanced off course by a couple of inches. A resounding clang rang by Shen Qingqiu's ear, and he quickly twisted his head around to look. Xuansu's hilt was in a deadlock, with Wu Wang's staff having blocked it. Unable to land a hit on Luo Binghe, Wu Wang had decided to hit Shen Qingqiu from behind. Though Yue Qingyuan had joined the battle, he didn't attack the two surrounded targets. Instead, he blocked the blades meant for Shen Qingqiu again and again. With Yue Qingyuan jumping in, Liu Qingge also entered the fray. The pair fought at random, their modus operandi about the same. They attacked anyone as long as it wasn't Shen Qingqiu, causing nothing but trouble. The problem being that this trouble came in the form of two experts, and their attacks were both vicious and precise. Finally, Wu Wang couldn't take it anymore. Pig Lord Liu, he said, enraged. A single slash of Liu Qingge's blade shaved the whiskers of the Tianyi Temple Taoists into bald, featherless dusters. My hand slipped, he said, expressionless. Wu Wang was so angry, his whiskers stood straight up. Sect leader Yue. After deflecting Wu Wang's staff from Shen Qingqiu for a third time, Yue Qingyuan spoke too. My eyes were mistaken, he said mildly. Everyone at the scene thought in unison. The saying that Sangchong Mountain sides with their own no matter the sin was indeed not baseless. Okay, cool. He has backup, I guess, but shit's still escalating. He turns to Binghe and tells him to leave. Binghe doesn't want to, but he sees how serious his Shizun is and agrees. Shenqingqiu promises that he'll return to Sangchang first, then come and find him. Besides, they can always meet up in dreams. And with that, Binghe is gone. But that also means the only one left in the hotspot is Shenqingqiu. Yue Qingyuan tries to pull the punishment of the Qingjing Lord is a Sangchang matter and we will handle it card, but Wu Wang isn't willing to let go that easily. He brings up that Shenqingqiu was supposed to stand trial 5 years ago, but that he escaped and apparently faked his death. Surely they are all owed an explanation. Shenqingqiu, for his part, isn't listening at all. The system has been blasting alarms at him.
Mission failed.
Luo Binghe left. The mission was over, but he hadn't managed to raise his righteous image points at all. In fact, there wasn't much further the points could fall at this point. Now he had to sit there and decide whether the system was going to punt him back to his old world, where he had been dead for like a decade now, or spend all his points to activate the punishment protocol.
Purchase successful. Satisfaction points reduced to 0. Please take note of your balance. Downloading the punishment.
The world is spinning. People are shouting. Did he get hit? Who did it? Liu Qingge shouts. No one did, Shenqingqiu wants to say, but can't. The world is still spinning. He collapses with a thud.
Punishment download complete.
Hey, warning for this one. The system's not playing around. He comes to on Qingjing, only it isn't how he remembers. The whole place is in ruins. Not a single stalk of bamboo remains. Even his bamboo house has been reduced to smoking ash. He's not alone. There's a familiar silhouette ahead. He instinctively calls out to Luo Binghe. But when he turns, he looks cruel. This isn't Luo Binghe. He looks just as surprised to see Shenqingqiu. Gently, not Binghe takes his hand, and before Shenqingqiu can process anything, his arm has been ripped straight from its socket. It hurts. Of course it hurts. He's being turned into a human stick. Shenqingqiu stumbles backwards and ends up on the ground. Not Binghe sits beside him, a hand gently caressing his thigh now. His arm hurts. No, he doesn't have one anymore. He can't breathe. Not Binghe has his leg. The only thing Shenqingqiu can think is don't do it. Not with that face, but he does. And Shenqingqiu screams.
Punishment complete.
The pain is gone in an instant. Shenqingqiu has all his limbs back and he's somewhere else now. Given that he's surrounded by black smoke, Shenqingqiu suspects he's still in a dream world. When Meng Mo appears before him, that suspicion is confirmed. Meng Mo fills him in. Shenqingqiu was trapped in a very powerful dreamscape that Meng Mo couldn't enter. The most he could do was watch, while Shenqingqiu's soul nearly ripped itself apart. Then the dream suddenly weakened and he was able to pull him here. Shenqingqiu thanks him for the assistance, and Meng Mo says it's for helping stabilize Binghe in the mausoleum. Speaking of Binghe, Meng Mo doesn't know where he is or why he's not here. Speaking of the mausoleum, when Chou Haitong passed out for a few moments, Meng Mo showed her something, and that's why she was so erratic when she woke back up. Shenqingqiu asks him if he can see it too, and Meng Mo's like, they're your memories. Don't you remember? And Shenqingqiu's like, funny story. I forgot everything in a chi deviation. Whoopsie. It was Shenqingqiu's memories. More specifically, the original Shenqingqiu's memories, which means the original's memories are still there, in the body, even though the system replaced the driver. Which means it's finally time. It's original Shenqingqiu, the Scum villain, Shen Jiu's backstory time. Huge, huge warning for child abuse and slavery. Shenqingqiu opens his eyes and sees the same scene he did in Huayue City. The original goods, a young Shen Jiu with his hands bound, kneeling in a lavish study. I want to mention that throughout all the memories, our Shenqingqiu is standing off to the side, observing as a third party, just like us. I like how MXTX does this because we're learning at the same time as Shenqingqiu. Qiu Jianlo, the young master of the Chou house, and a supposedly kind and outstanding master and brother, eventually comes into the room. There's no good way to say this. This guy sucks. He's the worst. He's terrible and cruel, and he wastes no time before beating the child slave he just bought. And he's enjoying himself. Shenjiao gets to wipe his face after the beating, while Chou Jianlou is just laughing about how much fun his new toy is. And then there's a knock at the door, and a tiny Chou Haitang comes in. She heard a new servant was brought to the house, and oh, look, he's almost the same age as her. Shenjiao doesn't say anything to her. He comes off as looking a bit bashful, and Chou Haitang proudly declares she likes him. Her brother, more sinisterly, declares the same. The scene changes, but we're in the same room. Shenjiao is lying on the ground, face bruised, swollen, and he's alone. Then there's a knock at the door. Xiaozhou? Xiaozhou? It's Chiga. These are slave names. Zhou is the number 9, and Qi is 7. Xiaozhou literally means little 9, and is a nickname. Chiga is also a nickname. The suffix ge denotes status as like a close older male figure, an older brother. There's not really an equivalent in English, but it serves the same purpose as like hyung in Korean or Nissan in Japanese. Chiga is here, but the door's locked 5 or 6 times from the inside and out, and so are the windows. Chiga is here, but Xiaozhou can't get out. Xiaozhou says it's no use anyway, because even if the doors were unlocked, his legs are broken.
He's lying.
It's my fault, Chiga says, voice muffled through the door. And of course it is. If Chiga didn't care so much about the random other kid slaves, then he'd never have stepped in. And if he didn't step in, then Shenjiao wouldn't have had to save him. And if he didn't save him, then Chou Jianlou wouldn't have noticed and then bought him. And if he never bought him, then Xiaozhou could be out there with Chiga instead of locked in here, beaten like a dog. Chiga keeps apologizing through the door. Whatever. Tut-tut. That doesn't matter. None of that loyalty crap matters to Xiaozhou. In fact, take it. All the loyalty he had in him was used during that moment he stepped in, so Chiga already has it. All his loyalty for this life belongs to Chiga. Chiga says he understands. Huh, like hell he does. Chiga says he's leaving. He can't get in. He can't save Xiaozhou, so he will leave, join a cultivation sect, get stronger, and come back. Chiga needs to take care of himself. He's too impulsive and too trusting, and he'll probably die before he can even make it to the immortals. He absolutely has to come back and save him. Xiaozhou squishes his face into the crack in the door as much as he can to get one last look at Chiga. Who knows how long it'll be until he comes back. He will come back. The memory changes. We're in the same room, but Shenjiao is older. He grinds ink for Chou Jianlou. Eventually, Shenjiao breaks the silence to ask. Chou Jianlou cuts him off immediately. He doesn't have time to entertain thoughts of some low-life scam artist, but Senior Wu Yanqi isn't a scam artist. He knows immortal techniques. He saw potential in Shenjiao, and he said that he could teach him. Shenjiao pretty much saw the beating coming. Chou Jianlou is too busy to entertain such nonsense. Besides, Shenjiao has clothes. He has food. He's been taught to read. He's even allowed to be engaged to Chou Haitang. Chou Jianlou will not listen to this nonsense anymore. Shenjiao's not even human. How could trash ever hope to cultivate to immortality? How laughable. No, he's wrong. Shenjiao is human. He deserves to live his own life. He throws the inkstone at Chou Jianlou's head. It misses, only able to dirty his robes. Chou Jianlou is angrier, and in desperation, Shenjiao manages to grab the sword hanging on the wall. He's getting even angrier, but he underestimates Shenjiao until the sword is impaling his stomach. Chou Jianlou shouts for the guards. He's not dead, so Shenjiao stabs him again and again and again. And then he's dead. Shenjiao killed him, but he's still not free. He can't wait anymore. Chiga isn't coming back. He's probably dead too. Shenjiao is going to live. He leaves the study with the sword. He killed every man he came across, not the women. They were kinder, softer. They sheltered Shenjiao when all the men did was beat him. He keeps killing men until he runs into Chou Haitang. She faints on the spot. Seeing her calms him down a bit. She was the only truly safe place for Shenjiao in Chou Manor, his only defense against her sadistic brother. Though she never knew about any of the abuse, he wanted to protect her too. He carried her unconscious form out of the manor as flames spread and engulfed. He keeps the sword. Senior Wu Yanqi is waiting outside. Shenjiao is well over the ideal age to start cultivating, so it'll be harder for him. but Senior Wu will still train him. He asks him why he didn't kill them all. Shenjiao shrugs. Everyone he wanted to kill is dead. No more waiting. The flames eat the entire estate. Servants are screaming and fleeing. Shenjiao throws the sword into the fire. No more waiting. Our Shen Qingqiu had always known that the youth who promised to return to save him would never come back. It was only logical, wasn't it? This was a well-known flag. If anyone vowed that they would definitely come back, or be back right away, then it was guaranteed that you would never see so much as a shadow of them again. These two children had really been too naive, too optimistic. As long as Chiga visited each sect one by one, he'd definitely find one willing to accept him, right? Completely wrong. Even if he did happen to get accepted and managed to succeed in his studies after several years, he would have seen more of the world and gained many more things to worry about. So there was no guarantee that he'd return to look for his childhood companion. Furthermore, the Jianghu was unpredictable, and all kinds of disasters could unfold. Therefore, the chance of that youth actually returning to rescue Shenjiao had been less than 5%. However, now that the plot hole had been filled to this extent, Shen Qingqiu understood a little of why airplanes shooting towards the sky had taken an axe to the outline. When written within the bounds of the original genre, this kind of character was extremely difficult to handle. You could say he was Scum, but he was also pitiful. But if you tried to acknowledge his pathos, his ruthlessness was real too. Characters that were both scummy and tragic always drew aggro. And they were a hotbed for wank, leading comment sections to devolve into massive flame wars. Better to hack him down into a formulaic asshole and let the protagonist step on him. Easier to write, and the readers would find it satisfying as well. The memory fragments are getting further apart. Shenjiao is a peak lord now, Shen Qingqiu. Chou as in autumn, Chou as in Chou Manor, Chou Jianlou. Shenjiao stands above a canyon full of young people digging holes. Among them, a curly-haired boy with a fake jade guanyin around his neck. Shenjiao stands above them. Yue Qingyuan stands next to him. "There's even more people here this year compared to past trials," said Yue Qingyuan. Shenjiao squinted, his expression devoid of joy or anger. With a subtle shift of his two fingers, the fan in his hand slightly opened. From the other side, another person approached and bowed to Yue Qingyuan. "Zhengmeng Shishong." This person completely ignored Shenjiao, who stood next to them, his eyes about to overflow with resentment. Besides Great Master Liu, who else could have that much arrogance? "Excellent timing, Liu Shidi," said Yue Qingyuan. "Why not take a look and see who's best?" Liu Qingge only needed a glance to say, "Talent-wise, him." The one he pointed to had his back to them, and it was the diligently digging Luo Binghe. "Does Liu Shidi want him?" asked Yue Qingyuan. "Those who wish to come to me will come themselves. Good talent doesn't guarantee success," Shenjiao said mildly. Liu Qingge didn't even grace him with a sideways glance. "But certainly more success than a nobody who began proper cultivation at age 16. "Liu Shidi," Yue Qingyuan's tone was full of reproach. Liu Qingge had no interest in being lectured and turned to leave right away. "I'm going to practice." He departed without a second word, coming and going like the wind. Shenjiao stood stiffly in place, shaking in rage at Liu Qingge's insult. 2 sharp cracks sounded from the fan as he squeezed it, his grip overly forceful. "Liu Shidi isn't good with words." Yue Qingyuan's tone was resigned. "You've always known this, so you must not mind him." Shenjiao humped, his air sullen and spiteful. He seemed about to say something when Ning Ying clambered up. "Shizun, Shizun," she called, flinging her arms around Shenjiao's waist. "Will Ying get a shime or a shidi?" When Shenjiao looked at her, his face relaxed somewhat. "Would you like a shidi or shime?" Ning Ying nodded several times. Shenjiao raised his head and opened his fan, giving it a couple of waves. He squinted to himself, starting to plot something or other. Suddenly, he spoke. "I want that child." He was staring at Luo Binghe. Luo Binghe is dirty, a street child, but he's the perfect age to begin cultivating. Shenjiao wasn't. Luo Binghe had a mother. She died, and Luo Binghe wants to make her proud by becoming an immortal. Shenjiao never had a mother. Luo Binghe's mother was the kindest in the world to him. No one had ever been kind to Shenjiao. He throws the tea, cup and all, at the boy. This is the last memory. Shen Qingqiu, a mere ghost, kneels next to Luo Binghe. He's crying. Shen Qingqiu hugs him, tries to comfort him. Please don't cry. Shizun won't hit you again, he promises. Boy, oh boy. That was a lot, huh? You know I'm gonna talk about it. Gotta be honest that while scripting this, all I wrote was, go for it, future me. So, off the cuff, here we go. Where to start? Let's talk about Shen Qingqiu and the cycles of abuse. So, PIDW is all about the cycles of abuse. The reader base just didn't know it because it was underneath all the smut. Shen Qingqiu was raised and abused by Chou Jianlou, and then Wu Yangji. Side note, I'm probably going to talk a good amount about Wu Yangji, but that stuff isn't gone into detail on until the extras, so spoilers for that, I guess. Actually, general spoiler warning, I'll try not to, but there's a lot of stuff about Shenjiu that isn't explicitly stated until later. So, Shen Qingqiu was raised and abused by Chou Jianlou and Wu Yangji, and then, when he got disciples of his own, he took it out on them, namely Luo Binghe. I feel like it's important to say that no amount of tragic backstory can justify cruelty or make it okay for them to do, but it's important to understand why people act the way they do. I also want to emphasize that these people aren't real. I feel like an important part of media literacy is being able to differentiate between real life and fiction. He might be my favorite character, but if I saw someone throwing hot tea at a kid in real life, you'd better believe I'd be pepper spraying a bitch. The book gives a couple of reasons why the Scum villain has such a problem with the protagonist, the biggest being just pure coincidence. Luo Binghe just happened to be there and have potential while Liu Qingge was being a dick. Shen Qingqiu took the disciple to be an asshole back. But then it felt like Luo Binghe was designed to piss off Shen Qingqiu because he had everything Shenjiu did not. It was different than, say, Liu Qingge, who also had everything Shenjiu didn't. But Liu Qingge was a rich young master, of course he had it all. Luo Binghe was a street rat, just like Shenjiu. But Luo Binghe had a mother who loved him. Shenjiu didn't. Luo Binghe got to join a cultivation sect and make use of his massive potential. Shenjiu didn't get that opportunity. All his potential was siphoned away by Wu Yangji. Shenjiu joined the sect long past the prime cultivation years, and his great potential had been replaced by weak, poisoned spiritual veins. So it wasn't that a street rat could never have it all. It was Shenjiu who couldn't. And then, the final nail in the coffin, Ning Yingying called Luo Binghe A Luo, which is the same nickname that Chou Haitong called her brother, Shenjiu's biggest tormentor, Chou Jianlou. He takes it out on the boy, and all the bullying culminates in Binghe being thrown into the endless abyss. Luo Binghe learned from what he knew. He was taught that nothing good comes from optimism. He had it beaten out of him. He learned the only way to not get hurt was to stand above everyone who could ever hurt you. So, Luo Binghe came back to Qingjing. Shenjiu hung him by the wrists while he whipped him, so he removes his arms. He made him run laps instead of attending class, so he removes his legs too. Shenjiu won't look at him, so he takes an eye. He won't talk to him, so he takes his tongue. He locked him in the woodshed, so he locks him in the water prison. But it was never enough. In PIDW, and in the memory we just saw, Luo Binghe cries when Shenjiu throws the tea and he vows to never cry again. And he didn't. Not when he was beaten or bullied, not when he fought for his life in the abyss, not when he married his wives or when he exacted his revenge. Shenjiu didn't cry either. He didn't say anything when he was abandoned by his sect. He never broke when being torn apart. The only time Luo Binghe saw Shenjiu break was when he presented him Yue Qingyuan's broken sword. Ooh, there's so much to talk about with the sect leader. If you haven't picked up on it, Yue Qingyuan is the little slave number 7. Yue Qingyuan is Qige, and Qige never came back. Despite it all, these two still ended up in the same place as Peak Lords together. Their relationship is super strained, though. The other Peak Lords just think Shen Qingqiu is spitting all over the sect leader's good graces, but the reality is so much messier and so much more complicated. I don't want to go into too much detail right now because of a reveal that happens later in this volume, but let's just say that Shenjiu killed Wu Yangji to save Yue Qingyuan. He followed Yue Qingyuan back to Sangchao Mountain Sect out of loyalty. Yue Qingyuan apologizes constantly for not coming back. He gives Shen Qingqiu gifts and favors to make up for it. But all Shen Qingqiu wants is an explanation. He wants to know why his Qige never came back, but Yue Qingyuan never tells him. In PIDW, the sect leader dies, and the Scum villain never gets his explanation. So all that's super complicated and full of misunderstandings. But don't worry, when it comes to our Scum villain, almost everything is complicated and full of misunderstandings. Okay, let's talk about the rumors. There are 3 big accusations that get Shen Qingqiu locked up in the water prison. First, he's a lecher that goes to brothels, lusts after his female disciples, and abuses his male ones. Second, he killed his martial brother, Liu Qingge, in cold blood. And third, he killed the Chou household for no reason. So we know now that he most definitely did have a reason for the Chou household, so that one's out. And we also know that Liu Qingge had a chi deviation in the Lingxi caves. It wasn't so much Shen Qingqiu killing Liu Qingge as it was Shen Qingqiu failing to stop Liu Qingge from killing himself. So that just leaves the first reason. We've talked about how Shen Qingqiu took stuff out on his disciples, but let's talk about the pervert stuff. And a good amount of this is headcanon, based on the ungodly amount of time I've spent analyzing Shenzhou's character. Shenzhou hates men. Total misandrist. All his abusers were men, and most of the people who come to Qingjing Peak come from noble families. Spoiled young masters Shenzhou hates the most. Wu Yangxi often spent his nights in brothels, so did Shenzhou. You combine that with the fact that Chou Haitong was his only shield from beatings, and doesn't it only make sense that Shenzhou would sneak out of the boys' dormitory to sleep at the brothel, surrounded by women? I don't even think he was having sex with all the brothel workers. A lot of them were probably slaves just like him. I think he thought of them like his friends and sisters. He probably taught them how to read and play instruments and the like. And then there's Ning Yingying. She's soft and sweet, and Shen Qingqiu favors her. It's just that his only frame of reference for spoiling a young girl would have come from Chou Jianlou, who was definitely a sister-lusting creep. So I think that's why people would get the wrong idea about Shen Qingqiu. He also didn't help his own reputation at all by being a prickly, antagonistic asshole all the time. When Shen Yuan takes over, people notice. Of course they do, and Shen Yuan is immediately suspected of possession, but when nothing is revealed, everyone just drops it. They all like this, quote, nice Shen Qingqiu better anyways. Now, I'm not saying this because I want a witch hunt on Mr. Peerless Cucumber. That guy's great, but isn't it just so sad that Shenzhou never got his happy ending? Airplane said that he had a villain redemption arc in his outline, but it never made it to page. Got pushed out for more smut. The villain always had it in him to change, to be understood, but he never did. And that's the most tragic part. And all that potential, that hurt, makes me want to see him succeed. I want him to find that redemption and comfort that he never had, to break the cycles of abuse and prove himself better than Chou Jianlou and Wu Yangxi and the Demon Emperor Luo Binghe and everyone else. And that's how he ended up being my absolute favorite character and Scum villain, despite not being in the book pretty much at all. Call me a simp or an apologist.
Because it's true.
He's my little meow meow, and I will be reading Shenzhou Good and Fix until I die. Anyways, that sure was a rant, huh? Let's move on. You might be expecting Shen Qingqiu to wake up in a bed with white curtains and Yue Qingyuan sitting at his bedside, and you'd be right, if it ain't broke. Yue Qingyuan tells him he's been crying and calling out to Luo Binghe in his sleep, which is very difficult behavior to explain away. Luckily, Yue Qingyuan doesn't ask him to explain. He's been asleep for 5 days, so just being awake is enough. The system tells him that he's 70% of the way through fully understanding Shenzhou, so woohoo! My man gets a little more limelight, but not quite yet. Shen Qingqiu tells Yue Qingyuan with a whole lot of urgency that Tianlan Jun's attack will definitely take place on the first day of snow at the Luo River. Yue Qingyuan tells him to leave the war to his fellow peak lords and leaves. Once Yue Qingyuan's footsteps fade, Shen Qingqiu tumbles off the bed, searching everywhere for his outer robe. As he spun around haphazardly, he failed to notice someone approaching him from behind, and a hand covered his eyes. Shen Qingqiu automatically struck out with his elbow. Who is it? Who else would have the guts to play such a stupid trick, let alone the interest? His hand was firmly caught in a grasp, and a familiar voice spoke in his ear. Why doesn't Shizun guess? What was the point of guessing when he had already opened his mouth and called him Shizun? Shen Qingqiu was rolling his eyes when the person behind him suddenly grabbed his waist, causing them both to tumble onto the bamboo couch to the side. Its bamboo twigs crackled under their combined weight. The object blocking his eyes moved away, Sure enough, it was Luo Binghe. The hand moved to cover Shen Qingqiu's mouth instead. Don't blink. Shizun's eyelashes are so long. They tickled me too much, and now both my hand and my heart are itchy. You're the one with the long eyelashes. The person with the longest eyelashes is you. Shen Qingqiu continuously blinked dozens of times, expressing his anger. Luo Binghe smiled, then kissed his eyelids softly. Don't shout. If someone from Qingjing Peak discovers us, Shizun's prestigious reputation would truly be ruined. What reputation? It'd long since been ruined by this unfilial disciple. Luo Binghe kissed his way down Shen Qingqiu's eyes. I said that I would come for you. It's been so many days since our last meeting. Did Shizun miss me? According to the standard response Shen Qingqiu had in mind, he should first knee Luo Binghe in the belly, then kick this unfilial disciple away and tidy up his appearance before finally delivering a cold and aloof "I didn't." But somehow, when he thought back to that recent memory of Luo Binghe kneeling alone in the bamboo house, silently picking up the teacup on the floor, his leg wouldn't obey him at all. Shen Qingqiu's breathing also seemed to tremble against Luo Binghe's palm. He closed his eyes and nodded. Luo Binghe had already braced himself to be kicked off the couch, so Shen Qingqiu nodding caught him off guard completely. He went stiff in his perch atop Shen Qingqiu. His expression froze as well. Only then did Shen Qingqiu realize what he had done, what that nod of his meant, and he was filled with the urge to eradicate all witnesses, as well as off himself in shame. No, it's not what you think. Let me explain. But Luo Binghe didn't give him the chance. The arm around Shen Qingqiu's waist tightened, and his voice dropped. You really missed me? Shen Qingqiu frowned at how tightly Luo Binghe squeezed him. Luo Binghe persisted, breathlessly and tirelessly. You really did? You're covering my mouth. Even if I wanted to answer, I couldn't. Meaning, he could only choose to nod or shake his head. To mess with him, Shen Qingqiu alternated between nodding his head and shaking it. So which is it? You did or you didn't? Luo Binghe asked, now urgent. He looked close to tears. Shen Qingqiu was left with no recourse but to admit defeat. He was hit with the bizarre feeling that he was martyring himself. With his entire face on the line, he dawdled for a while longer before finally nodding once. This time, Shen Qingqiu saw everything clearly. At the moment of his confirmation, Luo Binghe's breathing came to a stop. A small, weak spark glimmered to life in his eyes before it rapidly spread like a raging wildfire through his entire face and body. Just when Shen Qingqiu thought Luo Binghe was about to burst into tears of joy, Luo Binghe suddenly burrowed into him, pressing his face into the gap between Shen Qingqiu's lapels. The hand covering his mouth slowly fell away. Then he started to drop tiny, quick kisses all over the corner of Shen Qingqiu's mouth, not unlike a little chick pecking for grain. Now that he was finally able to breathe properly, Shen Qingqiu tossed out 2 words from between gritted teeth. What nonsense. I also missed you, Luo Binghe muttered. Really, really missed you. There wasn't a single moment when I didn't miss you. Okay, before we go on to chapter 20, I have to rant again. I super don't get how some people can say that Shen Qingqiu doesn't really love Luo Binghe. Like, for sure, it's more subtle than Hualien or Wangxian, but still, through the whole book, Shen Qingqiu goes on long rants about how beautiful and amazing Luo Binghe is. He blames it on Luo Binghe's protagonist powers, and I'm straight, but who could possibly not think this way? And the answer is almost everyone. People mostly see Luo Binghe as Shen Qingqiu's disciple that is super attached to him. They're not falling over themselves to sing his praises. That's just Shen Qingqiu. And then, in the Holy Mausoleum, that's where Shen Qingqiu really started accepting what he's always subconsciously done and felt. He wants to protect Luo Binghe. He wants to stay with Luo Binghe. Then, in the dreams, while I was falling in love with the original Shen Qingqiu, he was kneeling with Binghe, hugging him even though the memory would have no idea he was there. I had to read that little bit at the end of chapter 19 because it's such a cute moment of fluff for Bingqiu. Even though he's playing it cool, saying that he should kick his disciple for being unfilial, he really did miss him, and Binghe gets his feelings returned. This is a fun little snippet of their dynamic. Binghe is easy to cry, and Shen Qingqiu loves to indulge him. They're in love, Your Honor. Shen Qingqiu asks why Binghe waited so long to see him, and Luo Binghe tells him that he thought Shen Qingqiu might think he was annoying if he came too soon, and Shen Qingqiu gets to realize that he kinda likes how sticky and annoying Binghe can be. Binghe tells him that he gets jealous when Shen Qingqiu is on Sangchang Mountain because he smiles too easily at other people. And then he lists off all the people he's seen Shen Qingqiu smile at. Shen Qingqiu hits him with a fan for that one, but it also makes him laugh. Even if he is a little beast, Luo Binghe is Shen Qingqiu's little beast and no one else's. Binghe also gives him a little massage to help Shen Qingqiu's atrophied muscles. But none of that now, it's time to get serious. Yue Qingyuan clearly didn't want Shen Qingqiu to get involved with what happens next, but there's no way he could stay out of it. Luo Binghe tells him that he can call for him if he ever needs assistance during the impending confrontation. Shen Qingqiu tells him that he needs to be on his guard more than pretty much anyone else who might be there. Luo Binghe needs to watch out for himself. Then, Binghe brings up something that's been on his mind. Shizwen knows so much about everything. He dedicated himself to read everything that Shizwen did, but those books didn't tell him half the things that Shen Qingqiu seems to know. It's almost like... well, maybe that's a topic for another time. Mingfan and Ning Yingying are here, and they're leading a pack of peak lords. Shen Qingqiu tells Binghe that he should sneak out now while he has a chance. Binghe asks him as he's leaving, after everything is over, will Shizwen leave with him? He still has some unresolved insecurities. There's no easy solution for these things, but still, it's him that Shen Qingqiu sends away and not them. And because there are still 100 pages left in this book, we can't be resolved yet. Shen Qingqiu tells him that he's still the Qingjing Peak Lord. Luo Binghe looks sad as he says, I thought you'd say that, and he's gone. A bunch of people come in then. Mingfan and Ning Yingying, of course, but also Liu Qingge, Qi Qingqi, and Mu Qingfang. Even Liu Mingyan is there, and it's a really nice scene. The peak lords give him shit, especially Qi Qingqi. Mu Qingfang seems tired, both from treating the perpetually sick, but also keeping all the other peak lords from storming Shen Qingqiu's sick room every hour. Liu Mingyan manages to eat melon seeds without taking her veil off. Damn. It's really nice. It feels normal and homely, but there's underlying tension. One thing is clear, Sangchang Mountain Set needs a lot more time to come back around on Luo Binghe. Shen Qingqiu doesn't know if he can give them that much more time. Ning Yingying cries for him not to leave again. Liu Qingge, the bloodhound, seems to be picking up on Luo Binghe's lingering presence, and it starts to snow. Shen Qingqiu doesn't sleep at all that night. The next day, an emergency bell rings and he rushes over to Qiangjing Peak. Last night, as the snow fell, a phantom vision of the Demon Realm's Maigu Ridge appeared over the Luo River. Every moment, it became more tangible in the human realm. Within 2 days, this phenomenon will spread throughout everywhere, and the realms will no longer be separated. There's no time to rest. They need to get moving now. Shen Qingqiu, chief strategist, tells them all that, likely, there are only 2 ways to stop this. Destroy the Shinmo sword or kill Tianlan Jun. Yue Qingyuan says that Shen Qingqiu will be staying behind. Final decision. Even going as far as to start casting a binding seal to keep Shen Qingqiu in the Qianjing Hall. But he's interrupted by the fucking sky above them splitting open. It's the endless abyss. Giant boulders and eldritch horrors threaten to fall right on top of them. Luckily, the barrier over the sect seems to be holding for now. Yue Qingyuan gives the orders that as soon as the barrier looks like it's about to break, all remaining disciples are to leave everything immediately. The other peak lords, including Shen Qingqiu, are to leave for the Luo River now. Yue Qingyuan will wait for aid from Xiaohua Monastery to arrive, help reinforce the barrier, and meet them there. Shen Qingqiu's a little worried about him and offers to stay. When asked to stay, you leave. When told to leave, you try to stay. Shen Shidi, really? In the end, Liu Qingge drags Shen Qingqiu away. The sect leader isn't far behind them though. He catches up to them before everyone at the Luo River could organize. Yue Qingyuan thanks Master Wu Wang and Master Wu Chen for the aid Xiaohua Monastery sent to Xiangcheng. He's actually surprised to see how many they sent. Who was left defending Xiaohua? Master Wu Wang actually seems like it pains him to tell everyone that his sect received aid too. From Huanhua Palace, or more specifically, from its current leader, Luo Binghe. And that's Binghe's cue, with all due dramatics. He has Zhen Yang strapped to his waist, Mo Beijun on his right, Xia Hualing on his left. And he's just here to assist Shizwen, so no one get any ideas. With a sigh and a glare from his Shizwen, he goes on to explain. Tianlan Jun might control the southern demons, but Luo Binghe undoubtedly controls the north, and the northern demons did not agree to this merge, just like the cultivators. What's the saying? An enemy of my enemy? This is a temporary truce. Peak Lord Shen has truly raised a good disciple. They need to set up arrays to keep Maigu Ridge from making any contact with the Luo River. It's very difficult to set up arrays mid-air. Someone will have to support each person drawing it on their swords, but it's possible. Luckily, Binghe has a much easier solution. Mobe Jun freezes the river, and they are able to walk out and draw the array. Perfect and easy. Now they can worry about how to handle the assault. The Baizhan disciples are itching for a good fight, as is their peak lord, but there are only 40 of them. Liu Qingge boldly declares that all Baizhan disciples are to kill at least 1,000 demons each, or they will be transferred to Anding Peak. Damn battle nuts. At least it works. Shen Qingqiu asks Binghe what kind of reinforcements he brought, and he gestures to his 2 generals. Mobe Jun is to handle all the, quote, ugly beasts, and Xia Hualing will handle her father. He also takes a moment to flirt with Shen Qingqiu a bit, and all the cultivators around them feel very awkward about it. Shen Qingqiu, definitely not blushing, moves on to Shang Qinghua. Because Mobe Jun is there, of course, so was Airplane Bro. He whacks him with a fan a bunch and yells about the original's shitty backstory. Airplane just weasels around, whatever. More importantly, he asks Airplane if he knows of any ways to beat Tianlan Jun. He doesn't. Honestly, Shang Qinghua feels a little bad for Tianlan Jun. He had a pretty shit hand in life, but it's time to go. An elite force will go extract the Xinmo sword. Others, like the Baizhan disciples and Liu Qingge, will stay behind to guard the ice. Binghe will go with Shen Qingqiu and Yue Qingyuan to the sword. Shen Qingqiu voluntells Shang Qinghua that he's coming too. Binghe will ride with Shen Qingqiu because he isn't used to using spiritual energy anymore, Shizun. Please allow this disciple to ride with you. They hold hands, and Shen Qingqiu is afraid. Binghe tries to reassure him. They need his help, Shizun. No one will say anything. But that's not what he's afraid of. He squeezes his hand and promises that they will talk about it when this is over. It's time to go. They fly up to Maigu Ridge. They can sense countless demons around, but having Binghe with them proves useful once again. They can sense his superior demonic power and clear the path in his wake. They make it to the mouth of an ominous cave. Definitely the right vibe for a boss fight. They need to investigate. Mobe Jun takes the initiative and literally kicks Shang Qinghua into the hole. R.I.P. Airplane Bro. It's quiet for a second before Airplane screams and they rush in. Tianlan Jun is there, standing guard in front of Xinmo, stabbed into a crack in the wall. Thick, black miasma pours out of the sword. Airplane's there too. He's fine, don't worry. He screamed because of Tianlan Jun's state. His mushroom body had corrupted and rotten under his intense demonic energy. His face half-stained deep purple from necrosis. His left sleeve hung empty as his arm had deteriorated to the point where he could no longer just pop it on. Let's go through the play-by-play. On the cultivator side, we have our strike team of 12, but the notable players in this one are going to be Shen Qingqiu, Luo Binghe, Yue Qingyuan, Mobe Jun, and Master Wu Wang. Then, on the other side, it's just Tianlan Jun and Zhu Zhilang. Both of them look worse for wear. Tianlan Jun's mushroom body is basically melting. Zhu Zhilang looks more unhinged, and he now has scales growing all over his body. We learn later that Zhu Zhilang is only able to maintain his humanoid appearance with the assistance from his uncle, and since the uncle in question can barely maintain his own form, Zhu Zhilang's appearance is suffering too. Zhu Zhilang takes on the cultivators to protect Tianlan Jun. An added side effect of his form wavering is that Zhu Zhilang's skin is now poisonous to the touch. Sect Leader Wu and Sect Leader Yue take him on. Xuansu is still fully sheathed. Meanwhile, Tianlan Jun is just sitting in the back, egging people on with insults and jokes. Mobe Jun joins the fray, and Yue Qingyuan is able to slip past to attack Tianlan Jun. Xuansu comes out of the sheath 3 inches. At some point, Yue Qingyuan and Tianlan Jun lock eyes with a very tasteful amount of sexual tension, and Tianlan Jun pulls Xuansu out another half an inch. Another little hint that something is super wrong with that sword. Tianlan Jun knows what's up. But then, Luo Binghe jumps in to interrupt, and it's time for the father-son rematch. Only, things aren't going like they were last time. Tianlan Jun's losing ground. Zhu Zhilang breaks away from Mobe Jun to assist him, but our snake has been losing control over himself this whole time. He lunges to attack Shen Qingqiu, sees what he's about to do, freezes for a split second, and Binghe is able to impale him with Zheng Yang. Tianlanjun's body was already falling apart. It doesn't take Binghe long to detach his remaining arm, and it's over? That felt underwhelming. Well, okay, the cannon fodder cultivators that came with them are pretty scattered on the floor, poisoned or unconscious or both. Also, one minor sect leader got his head squeezed like a grape and is definitely dead. But for our main characters, this was an easy fight, all things considered. Shen Qiqiu barely had to do anything at all. Mo Beijun tossed Shang Qinghua his way early on, and he spent most of the battle hamster sitting. It's Binghe that suggests they finish off Tianlanjun. Zhuge Liang, still barely alive, starts to struggle against Xiang Yang. Zhuge Liang. This makes me so sad. Like, they're fighting from opposite sides. We're supposed to be rooting for them to kill these two, but it's still so sad. Shen Qiqiu says it best. When he looks at Zhuge Liang, he can't help but remember that he killed Gong Yizhao. I'm lighting incense for him, but seeing him like this is just too pitiful. Unlike Gong Yizhao, please accept my offerings, Zhuge Liang is dying on screen. And Zhuge Liang had never once shown Shen Qiqiu any malice. Actually, scratch that. If y'all are Zhuge Liang stans like me, no one is allowed to mention that I stan almost everyone in this book, but it's my favorite, so let me have this. If y'all are Zhuge Liang stans like me, just pretend like this is the last time I ever mentioned him. He goes on to live a long and happy life. He retires from demon armies and goes to live a peaceful cottagecore lifestyle with Gong Yizhao. They adopt rabbits and they sell dumplings in town. Zhuge Liang gets to bear his heart and soul. You see, his original form wasn't the giant demonic snake general, but the ugly half-snake, half-man that Shen Qiqiu met in the Bailu forest. For the first 15 years of his life, all he could do was wiggle around on the ground, while everyone around him laughed, scorned, and trampled. Then, the first kindness in his life was shown to him when he met his uncle. He called him ugly, sure, but he never sent him away. Instead, Tianlanjun shared some of his power and raised Zhuge Liang to be his closest general. No one ever showed him kindness again until he met Shen Qiqiu in Bailu Forest. Even back in his ugly original form, Shen Qiqiu still helped him, and that's why Zhuge Liang tried so hard to repay Shen Qiqiu. Tianlanjun stops Zhuge Liang from speaking more. These humans would never understand. Any love they can offer to demons is so easily betrayed. And he has a point, guys. Everyone there feels it. Tianlanjun was just a man who fell in love and was betrayed. But was he really? Master Wu Chen is there and reveals the last missing piece of the old palace master's evil. You see, back then, the old palace master coveted after his disciple. We know that. He had been subtly disposing of all of Su Xian's possible suitors, and then she met Tianlanjun. She avoided all the disciples he sent to spy on them. She fell in love with him, and then she fell pregnant. Su Xian didn't know the true extent of her master's depravity. Sure, he was a little protective, but she really thought that he was kind. She told him about the baby, and he locked her in the water prison. He told lies to the cultivation world, and then he sent Tianlanjun a fake letter from Su Xian. He lured him out and sealed him under the mountain with the combined might of the 4 major sects. At the same time, he promised Su Xian that he would allow her to see Tianlanjun as long as she took the poison to abort the child. She did, but she protected the child by absorbing the poison into herself. But the old palace master lied again. He told her the wrong location. Tianlanjun was sealed away, thinking he had been betrayed by his one love, while Su Xian died after giving birth to their child. Cold and alone, she gave birth, sealed away the child's heritage, then sent him floating down the Luo River for a better life. And that's how Master Wu Chen found her body. He knew the whole time that Su Xian really loved Tianlanjun, and he was innocent. She gave her life to save his child. Master Wu Chen assures Tianlanjun and gives him that closure, and he accepts it. So there's no need for this to continue, right? It's not too late. If Tianlanjun stops now, everything will return to how it should be. But then Tianlanjun drops a bomb. Look, Peak Lord Shen, as I am, I can't even maintain Zhuge Liang's human form anymore. Having fought all of you for so long, the toll on this body of mine was no small matter. Who do you think has been sustaining Xinmo and supplying it with the demonic qi all this time? Everyone turns to Binghe standing next to the sword. Shen Qiqiu tells him to come to him. He does not. What follows is the most heartbreaking moment in Scum Villain, and that's not even hyperbole, it's scientific. Shen Qingqiu is mad at first. Binghe lied to him again. But Binghe is mad too. He can't trust anything Shizun says anymore. Yesterday, at Qingjing, he stayed when he wasn't supposed to. He watched Shen Qingqiu smile with the Peak Lords. He heard Shen Qingqiu agree to stay with them. "That's why you're angry?" said Shen Qingqiu. Angry, Lil Binghe darkly spat out 2 words. "I hate." Then, "I hate myself." His pace quickened with his irritation. His hands clasped behind his back. "I hate how useless I am. I hate how I can never keep anyone. How no one has ever chosen me." Binghe's chi is becoming more and more erratic. He thinks that if the worlds merge, Shizun won't be forced to choose anymore between him and his sect. Binghe knows what he'll choose, and Binghe will be alone again. "Shizun, if Qingjing Peak is gone, I can build you another," Lil Binghe said gently. "It's fine if you resent me. It's fine if you hate me. I won't make any great demands. If you're unsatisfied, you can hit me, try to kill me. After all, I won't die, as long as you don't leave me." He spoke so earnestly. "Truly, I only have this one wish." Lil Binghe is beyond reason now. He's chi deviating, and the Jinmo sword has taken over his heart. "It's no use, Shizun. You don't need to do this. The nicer you are to me, the more afraid I become. Will Shizun stay by my side just this once? Shizun, you've let go of me again and again. Always, anyone, anything. They all become reasons to abandon me. Until sometimes you don't even need a reason. It's always like this." Binghe is backing up, getting closer and closer to Jinmo. Shen Qingqiu is about to unsheath Shuya when Yue Qingyuan beats him to it. Xuansu comes fully unsheathed. The energy is enough to throw Mo Beijun fully off the ridge, and Mo Beijun cannot fly. Shang Qinghua pulls out his own sword and dives after him. Pause. I can't help but kill momentum, can I? But I feel like this is important. Are y'all picking up the vibes between Shang Qinghua and Mo Beijun? Because honestly, the first time I read Scum Villain, I absolutely did not. I think I just wasn't paying enough attention. I remember Shang Qinghua diving off the mountain to catch him, and I thought, that's cute. But then I read the extras, and I was like, oh. So, if you didn't know, Mo Beijun x Shang Qinghua, or Mo Shang, is canon. That's right, you came for one couple, and you actually get 2. The BOGO special. Really, there's no reason to not love Scum Villain. Well, actually. So, Scum Villain is MXTX's first novel. If you've read her other 2 novels, you might notice the distinct lack of a secondary couple. Yeah, that's Mo Shang's fault. You see, Mo Shang exists almost entirely in the extra chapters, but when those chapters came out, the fans immediately fell in love with the couple. So much that MXTX felt like it was pulling attention away from the main couple, binghe. Because of that, none of the other side ships in her books become canon. I feel like MDZS is fine. Like, I ship a bunch of side characters in that book, but I don't think the lack of canon confirmation is that bad. TGCF though, ooh, TGCF. There's 2 that I always see people wishing and praying for confirmation on. One couple louder than the other. Let's just say some of the fans have beef, but it's MXTX's choice, so maybe we should just leave her alone. If you know, you know. Anyways, the whole time I was on that tangent, Binghe and Yue Qingyuan were fighting full out. Shen Qingqiu takes the chance, grabs Shinmo, and yanks it free. As soon as he does, the whole ridge starts losing integrity. Everyone is thrown off balance. Yue Qingyuan is able to put up a barrier that traps Lil Binghe in. He's reaching out for Shang Qingqiu and Jinmo when the ground beneath them collapses as well. Shen Qingqiu digs around in the rubble until he finds Yue Qingyuan. The sect leader doesn't look like he's doing well. He's pale and sickly, and Shen Qingqiu is looking for injuries. But Yue Qingyuan tells him to find Xuansu and resheath it. His sword. Oh, Yue Qingyuan, his impulsiveness and his sword.
Character backstory incoming.
Are y'all ready for the last 30% of understanding we need for Shenjiao's character fulfillment? You see, the reason Yue Qingyuan almost never draws his sword, even though it's the most powerful sword in the Jianghu, is because he can't. Xuansu is tied to his life force. Every time it's drawn, even an inch, Yue Qingyuan's life gets shorter. It's his fault. Zhao Zhou warned him not to be impulsive, but he rushed anyway. When Yue Qi first came to Sangchang Mountain Sect when he was 15, all he could think of was gaining as much power as possible. Xiao Zhou was waiting for him. He worked and worked and worked. He was seen as a model disciple with endless potential. He became the head disciple of the first-ranked peak. Then, he was ready to draw his spirit sword from Wangjian Peak, and this was it. Once he had a sword, he would be strong enough to save Xiao Zhou. He had a big enough reputation that would make it hard for the Chou to refuse him, and with his sword, they couldn't beat him if they tried. On Wangjian Peak, he ignored Xiao Zhou's warning again. He looked for power. Xuansu was the most powerful sword on the mountain. It told him he wasn't strong enough to wield it, and he didn't listen. The chi deviation should have killed him. His master had to break his bones, his tendons, his spiritual meridians, and he was locked in the Lingxi caves to rebuild himself. He screamed and clawed, but no one let him out, until he was remade, and Xuansu was bound to his life force. He went back as soon as he was able, but it was too late. Chou Manor was nothing but ash. Zhao Zhou was gone. He was probably dead. Chiga was too late. And then he met him again, at the Immortal Alliance Conference. Xiao Zhou saved him by killing the demonic cultivator Wu Yanxi, so Chiga took him away. He begged his Shizun to let Xiao Zhou stay, and he was taken to Qingjing Peak. Chiga and Xiao Zhou were reunited at last, except Xiao Zhou didn't like that name. He didn't want any reminders of their past as slaves. He didn't call him Chiga again. And Yue Qingyuan, no matter how many times Xiao Zhou asked, "Why didn't you come back?" he couldn't answer. He was ashamed, and too late. All he could do was apologize over and over. But now he's dying, maybe. Xuansu took so much out of him, and he has to tell Xiao Zhou before it's too late. Xiao Zhou needs to know. But Shen Qingqiu makes him stop. Isn't this all too tragic? He's telling him now, but it's too late again, isn't it? Yue Qingyuan's Xiao Zhou isn't here. So Shen Qingqiu, or rather Shen Yuan, refuses to listen. This explanation is not for him. He will not call for Chiga. He finds Wu Wang and Wu Chen wandering around. He hands them Zhuya and asks them to carry Yue Qingyuan out so he can get treatment. He will deal with his disciple himself. The system has been sending him waves of notifications, achievement alerts, informing him all he's done to change the story. But what's the fucking point? Xiangmen Xishan's over here giving deathbed confessions to the wrong guy. Yue Qingyuan doesn't die. I don't want y'all to worry. And then there's Binghe. He fucked up so bad with Binghe. He didn't notice his fears and insecurity. He had too much faith in PIDW. He thought Binghe couldn't be anything but confidence and security. But everything went wrong because of the stupid abyss. If only Shen Qingqiu didn't push him in. His loyal, perfect, sticky disciple. He probably would have jumped into the abyss if Shen Qingqiu had taken the time to explain. If Shen Qingqiu had only asked him to. Fuck. He was so hot and cold to him. 1 minute fearing him, then praising him, then running away, then protecting him. And then, Binghe asked him to leave with him. He offered his hand, and Shen Qingqiu didn't take it. And all his fears and insecurities were all right all along. Of course Binghe went insane. Fuck. Everything was if only and too late. Su Jian and Tianlanjun, Yue Qi and Shen Jiu, Shen Qingqiu and Lil Binghe. Shen Qingqiu keeps going deeper into the innermost part of Maigu Ridge. The whole place has collapsed. He digs around. Did Binghe get buried like Yue Qingyuan? Was he still trapped in that barrier? He keeps digging. He finds Tianlanjun instead. Zhuzhulong, in his snake form, still stabbed through by Zhang Yang, was coiled tightly around his uncle, shielding him from falling debris. Oh, poor snake. I love him so much. Shen Qingqiu gets all the stones off his tail and takes the sword out. Blood loss wasn't as much of an issue to demons as the spiritual energy coming off of Zhang Yang. Tianlanjun wants to know what his plan is. Shen Qingqiu is going to destroy Xinmo. But Xinmo has already reached Binghe's soul. How will he destroy it without harming Binghe? He'll figure it out. Shen Qingqiu asks if they've seen Binghe. And Tianlanjun gets to drop another bomb. Oh, I thought Peak Lord Shen knew. Hasn't he been behind you this whole time? Shocking to absolutely no one, Binghe is doing worse than before. His chi is extremely dark and erratic. He's seeing and attacking illusions, and the system informs him that his anger points, with a buff from Jinmo, has reached 3,000 points. If there is any time to use his special item Guanyin, it's now or never.
Greetings. The key item is currently loading in. We recommend deploying another tool in the interim. Gentle reminder, the small scenario pusher, Luxury Edition, that you recently upgraded has yet to be used.
And with that, we've made it to the most infamous scene in all of Scum Villain, lovingly referred to as the Papa to save the world. That's right. I hope you didn't forget that this is the world of PIDW. The characters may have changed, but some things will always remain the same, like the very logic of existence. The best solution to any problem, the world's only perfect cure-all, dual cultivation with a heavenly demon. In order to keep Luo Binghe's sword from merging the realms, ending life as we know it, Shen Qingqiu has to sheath his other sword, if you know what I mean. Okay, jokes aside, there's a lot of criticism for this scene. Putting aside the sheer ridiculousness of having sex to stop the apocalypse, a lot of people don't like this scene because of the dubcon elements, which is fair, but I think people have it the wrong way around. People criticize Binghe for the scene, but he's totally out of his mind right now, so yeah, his consent is a little dubious, but Shen Qingqiu is fully consenting. I think there's confusion because Shen Qingqiu undoubtedly suffers more during the scene. Spoiler, the sex is bad. There's not much you can expect from these two virgins rolling around not knowing what they're doing, with no aids or preparation in sight. And throw in all the erratic, powerful demon chi. Yeah, this kills Shen Qingqiu. Literally, he dies again. Don't worry, I'll circle back to that. Personally, I think this scene serves to be a wonderful inversion to all that PIDW stood for. In that shitty web novel, sex with the protagonist was always the answer. And it was so good that every woman forgot all their brain cells, motivation, and personality traits that set her aside from anyone else to join his harem, where they would sit in some courtyard totally forgotten by both their husband and the dumbfuck author directing them. The Papa to save the world scene saves the world, yes, but it's bad. It's not even sexy. Shen Qingqiu is like, damn, I got screwed over. Where's my mind-shatteringly amazing experience? Fuck you, airplane. So, it's not sexy.
Some may find it sexy. Host is most likely an exception.
Nothing like the endless fan service of PIDW. But the other huge difference is that Shen Qingqiu actually loves Luo Binghe. He's not using him to satisfy himself, to cure himself of some weird affliction. This will save Binghe, and he's willing to do anything to save Binghe. Shen Qingqiu is here to stay. He's not leaving. Not without Binghe. Binghe, and then comes back to himself. He freaks out at Shen Qingqiu's state. He starts to cry, but Shen Qingqiu's greatest fear is Binghe crying. He wipes his tears and comforts it. Then, the system finally catches up. Shen Qingqiu can finally offer Binghe his mother's jade pendant back. Luo Binghe stammered. I thought I had long since lost it. I thought I'd never find it again. Shen Qingqiu helped to loop the red string around his neck. Hold on to it from now on. Don't lose it again. After Shizun rescued me that time, could it be that he's kept it with him ever since? Luo Binghe mumbled. It had been in the system's storage system the entire time, so saying that he had couldn't be considered wrong, right? Once he thought this, Shen Qingqiu feebly nodded once. Luo Binghe's arms around him slowly tightened. As his tears continued to flow, he suddenly noticed that the marks on his arm were rapidly receding. His blazing hot forehead and cheeks were also cooling at an incredible speed. Stunned, he said, "What are you doing?" Shen Qingqiu hugged him firmly, forcefully locking Luo Binghe against the crook of his arm so that he couldn't flail around. "I'm not doing anything," he said slowly. "Like I told you, it'll stop hurting soon, so be good and don't move." Luo Binghe's voice cracked. Shizun, are you going to do what you did last time and use your own body to draw away Jinmo's demonic chi? The last time he referred to was the time when Shen Qingqiu had self-detonated. It must have left an enormous impact on him. "It's different this time," said Shen Qingqiu. Luo Binghe slowly clenched his fist. "Different how?" he asked, voice quavering. "Shizun, how can you do this to me? To think you would actually do the same thing a second time? For the sake of other people? I should have realized a long time ago that none of you would ever choose me. Every single one of you would rather throw me away. Listen to me, Luo Binghe, Shen Qingqiu said severely. Sure enough, Luo Binghe held back his tears and obediently listened. In order to give birth to you, Su Jian fought to the death. Luo Binghe, oh Luo Binghe. Why did you never consider it? Given the kind of person the old palace master was, would he have given his disciple a gentle, harmless drug? It must have been a drug that was absolutely fatal to demons. If she had really given in and obediently taken it, even if you hadn't died, how could you have peacefully grown up, unharmed, into who you are today? Luo Binghe's shoulders trembled. Shen Qingqiu made sure to emphasize every word. If I were her, no matter how venomous that drug was, I would have drunk it down without hesitation, then escaped the water prison. Afterwards, I would draw all its effects into my body, no matter how agonizing the process, no matter if the price would be the complete destruction of my martial aspect, no matter if it meant a horrible death, I absolutely would not allow my child to suffer even an ounce of harm. I'm not drawing away Jinmo's evil energy for anyone else, or anything else. I do it for you and only you, he said. I don't want to see a Luo Binghe who spends the rest of his life controlled by Jinmo, whose mind is lost to its corrosion, with illusions haunting him for all eternity. This master's expectations are for you to be alive and clear-minded, strong and healthy. Then he said softly, so don't say that no one wants you, or that no one will choose you, ever again. Luo Binghe is seeing clearer than he has in a really long time. But Binghe can't go on if Shen Qingqiu isn't there. Nothing is worth living if Shizuan isn't there. But dying together also included a together, didn't it? Binghe could destroy the sword. It didn't seem so bad. Together.
Congratulations. By hitting target values in all categories, the honored customer has been upgraded to a beginner-level VIP account. Would you like to activate the high-level ability self-saving?
I told you I'd come back to it. It's time to activate the Scum villain's self-saving system. The system spams him with all his achievements, including his greatest one, changing the story from a male power fantasy to a genre that appealed to women. But wait, if the system is saving him, then what about Luo Binghe? There's no point to anything if Binghe kills himself. Oh, Shen Qingqiu, don't you know by now that you should never underestimate the protagonist? Shen Qingqiu wakes up in just the most familiar fashion. He's surrounded by his disciples and fellow peak lords, and he wastes zero time before asking about Luo Binghe. Now, we all know I love Liu Qingge, but this man has a serious case of foot and mouth disease. I kind of brushed over it before, when Binghe fell into the abyss. His attempt to comfort Shen Qingqiu was, "That's rough, buddy. You should get a new one." Great. And now, when Shen Qingqiu asks where Binghe is, Liu Qingge tells him he died. He didn't. It's like a bad joke or something, I don't know. But Binghe is alive and well, I promise. Binghe succeeded in destroying Jinmo, and Maigu Ridge exploded. The explosion thawed the Luo River, and Shen Qingqiu and Luo Binghe fell in. That's where Liu Qingge fished both of them out. That's right, both of them. Binghe recovered first. He wanted to follow his Shizuan into death, but Mu Qingfang managed to confirm Shen Qingqiu was still alive before Luo Binghe could self-destruct. And now they're all here. Shen Qingqiu was asleep for many days, so Luo Binghe went to fetch some rare herbs for him. Read, he got chased off the mountain by the peak lords. Oh well, that's to be expected. He pissed so many of them off. Shen Qingqiu can give them all the time they need to cool off. Oh, Yue Qingyuan's doing good too. He's actually entertaining people right now, which is why he's not here. There's a celebration happening at Sangchang right now. A celebration of the successful stop to the end of the world. Cultivators from all over are enjoying the festivities. Airplane is there too. He's even back in his peak lord robes. I guess Yue Qingyuan decided to take him back. Shen Qingqiu is secretly happy to see him. He might just be insulting him in his head and out loud, but I can read between the lines, I know. Airplane tells him that the regret of Chunshang has reached classic literature status. They are the most honored gays in all the land. Zhuge unfortunately, did not make it out of the ridge. He's planting a garden with Gong Yizhao. But Tianlan Jun has been taken into custody by Zhao Hua Temple. I say custody very loosely. Master Wu Chen has taken him in so that they may discuss literature and philosophy for the short time Tianlanjun's mushroom body has left. Shen Qingqiu gets to speak with Yue Qingyuan. He's looking much better, but not fully recovered. Shen Qingqiu scolds him on behalf of the original, who can't be here to do it himself. Yue Qingyuan is absolutely never to draw his sword again. Life force is something you can never get back once it's gone. Yue Qingyuan asks what his plans are for the future, but Shen Qingqiu has no plans outside of waiting for Luo Binghe to come back. Yue Qingyuan smiled. You truly adore that disciple. Shen Qingqiu was searching for a way to answer when Yue Qingyuan said, Shidi, Sangchang Mountain will forever be a place to which you can return whenever you tire of wandering the outside world. These words were said with utmost sincerity and solemnity. Yue Qingyuan had always been this way. Whenever he promised, he would definitely deliver, and when he couldn't deliver, he would endeavor to make up for it, no matter the cost. After assuming the role of this novel character, Shen Qingqiu had always refused to become the Scum villain from the original works. He'd drawn a clear boundary between them and had taken great pride in walking the opposite path. So never before had he felt such a powerful and impulsive thought. If only he really were Shenjiu. If only that person could really hear these words. And finally, the main event. Luo Binghe is back. The first thing Shen Qingqiu does is scold him for not being there when he woke up. Binghe is a bit sheepish and tells him that he wasn't exactly welcome back, but he did make sure to sneak in every day to check on him. Just now, Binghe didn't see Shen Qingqiu resting, so he came to find him. Shen Qingqiu scolds him more. If you knew you weren't welcome, why bring me back here? Binghe tells him that he thought his Shizun might want to see his martial siblings. Shen Qingqiu can't do anything but sigh. His poor, silly disciple. Now it's Shen Qingqiu's turn to hold a hand out. Why don't we leave then? He asked. For a moment, Luo Binghe couldn't manage to react. Leave? Shen Qingqiu nodded. Didn't you say that you weren't welcome here? Then let's leave and go somewhere that does welcome you, he added. This time, no matter where you wish to go, this master will accompany you. They run off together, hand in hand. It starts with Shen Qingqiu pulling Binghe along, but it doesn't take long for the roles to switch. It doesn't matter where they go, it doesn't matter how many people shout at them, as long as they are together. The moment Shen Qingqiu had flipped open Proud Immortal Demon Way, the story had begun. But as he shut Proud Immortal Demon Way, the story had yet to end. Or perhaps, the story circulating through the world might have already ended. But the story between you and me has only just begun. And that's the end of the book! Woohoo! We did it! Okay, well, there are still all the extra chapters covered in Volume 4, which I definitely will cover, don't worry. And I'm nowhere near being done talking about Scum Villain in a public forum. That might not be a good thing. Anyway, I actually got to finish writing the script on my birthday. I'm so glad I got to reread the Papa to Save the World scene on my birthday. Couldn't think of anything better. Well, I'm going for now. I'll catch up in the next time. And remember,
you can, you up. No can, no BB.
Words to live by. See ya!